Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to the Sweetwater County Board of County Commissioners regular meeting. I call this meeting to order, and we do have a quorum present. All the commissioners here in the chambers with us this morning. If you will please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and then a moment of silence afterwards, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Commissioners, we have an agenda. What is your pleasure with our agenda today?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'll make a motion. We approve the agenda as presented.
we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. We have minutes from our June 7th, 2022 meeting. What is your pleasure with those?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I will make a motion to approve the June 7th, 2022 minutes as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second those.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Tab B, it's our acceptance of the bills, the approval of the EALs, monthly reports, abates, rebates. What is your pleasure, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the county vouchers and warrants, the monthly reports, and the abates and rebates as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. On to tab C, budget amendments with public hearings. And we have Bonnie Berry joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. We have 4 budget amendments this morning. The first one is Resolution 22-06-CL-05. This is a Sweetwater County budget amendment to increase the entire budget for Memorial Hospital of Sweetwater County. It was originally approved at $93,854,819. They have requested to increase that budget by $16,345,181 to total $110,200,000. This will need to be opened up to the public for a public hearing before this can be voted on. And we have some representatives from the hospital here that I'm sure would gladly answer any questions that you have. Do want to clarify, this is not taking any money from the county or the general fund. This is merely just increasing their overall expenditure budget because the Board of County Commissioners is required by state statute to approve their overall expenditure budget.
Thank you. Questions for Ms. Berry?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Wynn.
Ms. Berry,
Yes.
thank you for explaining that because a lot of people don't realize that we only have oversight over their whole budget. Thank you.
Any other questions? Questions from Ms. Richardson or Love? Okay. Then we will open this up for a public hearing. We will accept comments on Resolution 22-06-CL-05. Any comments regarding this resolution? Nothing in mind? Then we will close the public hearing. And commissioners, what is your pleasure on this resolution?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Wendling?
yeah, I'd make a motion. Excuse me, sorry.
I'm getting you all choked up today.
Yeah,
huh?
it's
Pretty excited.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 22-06-CL-05, which is Sweetwater County budget amendment for Sweetwater Memorial Hospital. amending the entire budget by $16,345,181 to a total of $110,200,000.
Thank you, Commissioner Wendling. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I would second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Ms. Berry, back to you.
The next budget amendment is Resolution 22-06-CL-06. This is also a Sweetwater County budget amendment. This budget amendment is for Sweetwater County Historical Museum. Their original budget approved by the Board of County Commissioners was $355,908. They are requesting that their entire budget be amended by $600, increased to total $356,508. Again, like the hospital, this is a component unit. So the Board of County Commissioners is required to approve their overall budget, and no money will be coming from the county for this budget amendment. This is just their overall expenditures, increasing them by $600.
So commissioners, a similar amount to the hospital in roughly the same ballpark. But if you have any questions for Ms. Berry, then we will open it up for a public hearing. Any comments regarding resolution 22-06-CL-06? Now's the time. Public comment is open. No comments regarding the $600 amendment. Then we will close the public hearing. And commissioners, what is your pleasure with this resolution?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lloyd,
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 22-06-CL-06 for the Sweetwater County Historical Museum, amending the budget by $600 to a total of $356,508.
thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion regarding this resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Back to you, Bonnie.
Next budget amendment. This is resolution 22-06-CL-07, Sweetwater County budget amendment. This budget amendment increases the expenditures in the general fund in the fleet vehicle maintenance operating in the amount of $10,000 and decreases the expenditures in the general fund in facilities maintenance operating in the amount of $10,000. So we are moving $10,000 from facilities maintenance operating into fleet vehicle maintenance operating. This one does affect the general fund. We're not taking any money out of reserves. We're just moving money around. Are there any questions before this is opened up to the public? And Jean Legursky is here to answer any questions that you might have if I cannot answer them.
Questions for Ms. Berry? Or Mr. Legursky? Okay, then we will open up a public comment period for resolution 22-06-CL-07. Now open for public comment. Any public comment? Then we will close public comment. And commissioners, what is your pleasure on this resolution? It's a little more than 600, but less than 16 million.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I would make a motion to approve resolution 22-06-CL-07 to increase, actually to move expenses from facilities maintenance to vehicle fleet maintenance for $10,000.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Bonnie, just rocking it. Let's go. What else? you got?
Last budget amendment of the day. Resolution 22-06-CL-08 Sweetwater County Budget Amendment. This budget amendment increases the expenditures in the health insurance fund in the amount of $500,000. This is just due to the claims. Because we do have our own health insurance fund, and the health insurance fund is a completely separate fund. It's not the general fund. So we're not taking any money out of the general fund for this. This is just an increase to the health insurance fund of $500,000. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. If not, we can open this up to a public hearing.
Thank you. Questions for Ms. Berry?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Wendling?
Yeah, Bonnie, what's that bring that balance in that health insurance fund?
I believe there were, I believe it was about $10 million that was budgeted initially. It was in that ballpark if it wasn't exactly that. We did do a $500,000 increase. It's hard to estimate the claims. We do pay them on a weekly basis. So when I prepared this, we had 3 more weeks left to pay of claims. So we hopefully estimated a little high.
Let's hope so. Thank you.
Otherwise, we'll be back.
Or people stay healthy.
One or the other.
So, yeah, but this doesn't take any money out of the general fund at all. But I think
you.
that I believe the budget was around $10 million
Yeah,
initially.
I know you're right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Then what is your pleasure on resolution 22-06-CL-08?
Public hearing.
Oh, a public
first.
hearing. Let's have a public hearing about that resolution that I just talked about. Public hearing is now open. This part's so exciting. I forgot it there for a minute, so I apologize. Any comments? Then we will close the public hearing. And now, commissioners, what is your pleasure with this resolution?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I will make a motion to approve resolution 22-06-CL-08, a Sweetwater County budget amendment, which was an increase in the health insurance fund by a total of $500,000.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you,
You,
Bonnie.
Chairman and Commissioners.
I'm sure we'll chat later.
Understatement.
We are on to county resident comments, concerns, compliments, anything like that. So if you have anything to share with the commission, I ask you to come up to the podium and speak into the microphone, introduce yourself, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. So if there are any public comments, that would be great. Commissioner Shainfeld.
Mr. Chairman, this morning I have the honor of introducing Miss Parker Upton to the commission and to Sweetwater County. So on April 23rd, Parker traveled to Billings, Montana to compete in the Our Little Miss Scholarship Regional Pageant. And she was crowned the La Petite Queen and will reign over the next year. She will be serving our community and representing the pageant as well. So over the 4th of July, Parker is going to travel to Washington, D.C., and she's going to be representing Wyoming and the Northern Plains states in the World Pageant. So it's an awesome opportunity, and she's very excited to represent the great state at our great state at the nation's capital. And we want to welcome her here today, and we would love to get a photo op too, if that's okay with everyone.
Wouldn't we? Yay, Parker.
Mr. Chairman, I think that one was better than compliment. I'm just
That is
saying.
way better. That's awesome.
And
Yes.
If that doesn't start your day with a smile, I don't know what will.
we're done.
Can't get any better than that.
That's going to be downhill from here.
We might as well adjourn at this point because that would be a high point.
Down we go. That's awesome. Yes. We have other things to do, I guess.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm Ron Wild with Rocky Mountain Power, and we'd like to invite all of the commissioners as well as anyone else that would like to attend to the Gateway South Transmission Project. We're going to be doing a groundbreaking on June 27th at 10 a.m., 1 mile north of County Road 1007. Or 1007 County Road 121 over in Medicine Bow, Wyoming. Governor Gordon, a bunch of Pacific Corps executives, as well as a multitude of other state and local executives will be there, and we'd like to extend an invitation to you guys to attend. I'll leave the paper copies with Sally.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
I'm not sure I'm allowed to leave the county. I'll have to check with some people, but
It's my understanding, sir, that they can track those bracelets anywhere.
they pretty much can. So that's my worry.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Wendling.
Yeah, with Ron being here today, I'd just like to personally thank him for the work he's done throughout the county, throughout the state, in his representation for Rocky Mountain Power and Black Hills. And I'd just like to tell Ron, thank you. He's been instrumental in many different ways of helping with funding, whether it's SCDC through the county and other organizations. And that's a representation of Rocky Mountain Power. And I think that just tells us how valuable and how much Rocky Mountain Power has put itself into the community, into the county and that type of thing. And I know not always do we agree with what Rocky Mountain Power does, but you know what? They're a private business. And they're granted, they're going to be regulated and that type of thing. But at the same token, we still need to appreciate what they've done and what they continue to do for many of the organizations, whether it's a hospital, whether it's the SCDC, whether it's the two cities, the Chamber of Commerce's, and many of the organizations in the county that depend on dollar donations. And Ron, just want to thank you for being in the middle of that and also pass it on to your superiors that I personally, I can't speak for the whole commission because some may not agree, but we do appreciate what Rocky Mountain Power has done for all those organizations. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Wendling. And yes, can wholeheartedly agree with that. And Ron is the go-to guy when you need something done. So we appreciate the great work you do.
Just don't sit next to him. You get volunteered.
That's true too, right? Next thing you know, you're doing stuff.
Next thing you know, you're volunteering.
Yeah, Ron, thank you for the monthly checklist, of how to improve your life. That was great. Say something kind, do something good. Yeah, very good. Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Any other comments from the public? Excellent. Thank you. That was one of our better, that was nice. We should do that
And I
more
think
often.
that was something you wished was compliments.
Bye.
Yeah, it was all good. It's
all good.
nothing. Yeah. So we'll move on to tab D. Commissioner approval of medical office space lease between Memorial Hospital, Sweetwater County and the University of Utah. I've got Susan Campbell on our agenda here. Introduce yourself if you would, please.
Sure. Good morning. I'm Susan Campbell, the in-house counsel for Memorial Hospital, Sweetwater County. And as you know, we have an affiliation agreement with the University of Utah, and they provide us with assistance. They help us with our cancer center, but they also provide us, they send up physicians And we're entering into a lease with them for just one office space in our medical office building. And so this lease means it's been approved by our board, but also needs your approval. I have given it to John and he has looked at it. I think, I don't know if he has any comments or not, but we do under the statute need to just have the county commissioner's approval of our lease.
Thank you. Mr. De Leon, and any comments you'd like to make regarding the lease
You
agreement?
guys have done this in the past. No other comments.
Thank you. Questions, Ms. Campbell? Okay, then what is your pleasure regarding this lease?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract and agreement between Memorial Hospital of Sweetwater County and the University of Utah and allow the chairman to sign needed documents.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Well done.
Thank you.
Should take the rest of the day off. That's good work.
Well.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Irene. Excellent work.
I did say aye. I just was a little slow on the uptake.
All good. Tab E, Resolution 22-06-CC-02, continuation of existing lodging tax. And Janessa Meredith with us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, commissioners. I'm Janessa Meredith with Sweetwater County Travel and Tourism. As you know, the local lodging tax has been in existence in Sweetwater County since 1991, and it has been on a general election ballot every 4 years since 1991. And 2022 is an election year for the local lodging tax. So the local lodging tax, as you know, is spent on marketing. We can't build an attraction. It only can be used to generate visitation to our area through marketing efforts. I have a brochure that you can see before you. I was going to read the list of events that are funded by the lodging tax as well. The Sweetwater County 4-H Harry Horse Show, the WWCC 2020 State Spelling Bee, the City of Green River Art on the Green event, the Southwest Wyoming Equine Sweetwater Classic AQHA and Open Show, the Actors Mission Longmire and Evening with Craig J. Johnson, the Wyoming Stock Growers Wyoming Cattle Industry Convention, Quilt Wyoming 2020, the Green River Chambers River Festival, the the Rock Springs URA Sweetwater Blues and Brews, the Green River High School Flaming Gorge Classic Basketball Tournament, the Green River High School Toman Invitational Wrestling Tournament, the Rock Springs Civic Center December Dunk Basketball Tournament, the Overland Stage Stampede Rodeo, the United Southwest Aquatics Shiver in the River Swim Meet, the Rock Springs Men's Hockey Annual Bug Cup, the Sweetwater Rodeo Club, their high school and junior high rodeo every year, the Green River Grapplers Wrestling Rudy Gunter Memorial Wrestling Tournament, the Green River American Legion Knights Invitational Baseball Tournament, the Art Timber event in downtown Rock Springs, the Rock Springs Avengers Soccer Rock Challenge Soccer Tournament, City of Green River Tough Turkey Volleyball Tournament, the Wyoming Wilderness Run the Red event, the Green River Development Flaming Gorge Days event, Quilting on the Green, and Wyoming's Big Show. Those are just some of the events that have been funded over the years, the last few years. So any event in the county that generates hotel occupancy qualifies for funding through the lodging tax. So I just wanted to remind you that it's going to be on the ballot this November. It's a tax that's only paid by people who are staying in the hotels and campgrounds. They pay the room rate, the sales tax, and that lodging tax. And that's the entire budget of Sweetwater County Travel and Tourism. And I would answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions from Ms. Meredith?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Lloyd.
Yeah, just more of a comment. I just want to thank the work that travel and tourism is able to do and produce through these grants. And I've always been a proponent of what's happened. And in the past, previous to my life as a commissioner, many of the organizations that I was part of were blessed to have grants and brought through travel and tourism. And I saw them benefit a lot of different people in multiple ways in the community. And then just the work you guys do and the way you pass that money through to enhance our community is just phenomenal. And I just want to thank you for that work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Thank you. Then commissioners, what is your pleasure on this resolution?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Wendling.
how about we have someone read it? Resolution?
You want to be that someone?
No.
No.
I thought maybe Commissioner Shanefield should, because she works very closely with travel and tourism.
There you go. It's a fine idea.
If that's okay with you,
Is that
Mr.
okay
Chairman.
with Commissioner Shanefield?
Sure.
All right, let's do
You're-
it.
You're taking over for Ron.
got
So it's
it.
resolution number 22-06-CC-02, a resolution declaring the intent of the Board of County Commissioners to cooperate fully and assist Sweetwater County and the incorporated municipalities of Sweetwater County in taking all actions necessary in support of the continuation of the existing county-wide 2% lodging tax. Whereas leisure and hospitality is a $160 million industry in Sweetwater County that provides over 1,300 full and part-time jobs. Whereas the taxes paid by visitors that stay in hotels, motels, campgrounds, and similar establishments, providing temporary quarters for space for transient guests. Unless staying in these establishments, residents of Sweetwater County do not pay this tax. Whereas the Wyoming Lodging Tax Statute, Wyoming Statute 39-15-204A little I don't know, states, is that, yeah, Roman numeral, states that the lodging tax is to be used for the primary purpose of promoting local travel and tourism. Whereas the ability to fund these promotional efforts to a level that is competitive in the marketplace is critical to the promotion of Sweetwater County as tourism destinations. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the governing body of the Board of County Commissioners of Sweetwater County, State of Wyoming, Section 1, that the Board of County Commissioner deems it appropriate that the Sweetwater County cooperate fully and assist Sweetwater County and the incorporated municipalities of Sweetwater County in taking all necessary actions to continue to impose such existing county-wide 2% lodging tax.
Thank you. Well done. Much appreciated.
Phew, got my reading in.
Commissioners, what is your pleasure then regarding this resolution, which Commissioner Shanefield has eloquently shared with us?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I will make a motion to approve resolution number 22-06-CC-02 as I just read.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Well done. Thank you. On to tab F, consideration of amendment number 2 to the memorandum of understanding between WYDOT and Sweetwater County for commercial air service delivery at Southwest Wyoming Regional Airport. We got Devin Brubaker in the house. Thanks, Janessa.
Thank you, Janessa. Morning, Devin.
Morning, Commissioners and Mr. Chairman, if it's all right with you, I have a short presentation that will cover both items that are back to back on the agenda. So if it's all right with you, I'd like to do that presentation and then happy to answer questions throughout or after.
Absolutely. Yeah. I will say I had to ask Sally when I first got the agenda, why are we doing amendment number 2 before amendment number 1? And then I found out they were with different entities. So we're all good. It just took me a minute.
It's been a confusing process.
I can only imagine.
So it's opening here. It's taking a second, I believe. It says it's opening. I apologize. There it goes. All right. So wanted to kind of get you all up to speed on the air service situation, both here locally and nationwide, as you make a decision on these 2 amendments. And I'll describe those amendments once I'm done with the presentation here. So a little bit of setting the stage of where we're at in the industry. there's a shortage of commercial airline pilots, and it's resulting in a reduction of service in smaller communities and quite a few flight cancellations as we go into the summer. Since the beginning of the pandemic, 191 or 63% of commercial service airports in our country have lost at least 25% of their air service. Of those 191, over 50 of them have lost 50% or more, including us. We're on that list. The pandemic exacerbated the problem with more retirements. I misspelled something there. I apologize. And less hiring. U.S. Airlines hope to add 13,000 pilots just this year in 2022. The problem is domestically, we only produce between 5,000 and 7,000 a year. So you do the math, it doesn't really work out too well, especially when certain visa requirements to bring pilots in from overseas are not allowing for that to happen. So we don't have enough pilots. The U.S. will lose half of our commercial pilots to retirement in the next 15 years. In the second half of the 20th century, the military was a key source of pilots, largely due to the different conflicts we had. If you think about Korean War, the Cold War, Desert Storm, all those different conflicts we had in the second half of the 20th century, the military ramped up the number of pilots they had in the ranks. They retired from the military. They went to fly commercially. With the advent of technology in flight, DoD doesn't need as many pilots. And on top of that, they do recognize they have a pilot shortage as well. So they're incentivizing pilots to stay within the military ranks. That's a little bit of the background of the industry, a little bit of background here in Wyoming, how our air service is delivered. The capacity purchase agreement is a 10-year contract between WYDOT and SkyWest Airlines to provide commercial air service to Sweetwater, Fremont, Campbell, and Sheridan counties. The agreement had an initial 3-year term, and that 3-year term ends on June 30th. So here in just, I believe, I think today's 21st, so 9 days. There are 2 options for renewal, with the first being a 3-year term that would go from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2025. And then there will be an option for a 4-year renewal after that. At each renewal, the parties have the ability to negotiate the terms of the agreement based on latest and forecasted market conditions. The initial term was negotiated in 2019 when the industry and air travel were growing rapidly, both here in Wyoming and nationwide. It ensured that air service was maintained. The capacity purchase agreement is what allowed us to maintain our air service in this state throughout the pandemic. Here in a minute, I'll talk about a list of communities that have lost air service, and they are all larger than our communities here in Wyoming. For decades, minimum revenue guarantees, if for some of you remember the old ASEP program, the Air Service Enhancement Program, where we would do annual agreements with SkyWest Airlines, it'd be a minimum revenue guarantee. It was agreement between the county and SkyWest. We negotiated in our own little silo where each community did their own negotiation. And everything was working, but it wasn't optimal. So we went to the capacity purchase agreement where all 4 communities negotiated together. We got better value for the communities, and it worked out well. The problem is over the last couple of years, the airlines have become even more risk averse than what they were before, where they are now looking at minimum revenue guarantees as numbers that are budget numbers, not to exceed numbers. And what that means is when you run out of money, they will just stop service. Before, if you ran out of money, they held their obligation and operated through the end of the contract term. For instance, we ran out of money for air service in February of this year. If it wasn't for a CARES Act allocation from the governor to fund the rest of this fiscal year, SkyWest would have walked in February and we would have lost our service. So what's really shifted is we needed to make sure through our negotiations with the airline that we had a contract that had a dollar amount that would protect for the volatility that exists in the industry right now. So we didn't get part of the way through the year and then lose our service. So a couple quotes from the United Airlines CEO starting back in October 6th. The first one is, "We are still debating what the long-term future of 50-seaters really is. The challenge is, do you want to serve places like Erie, Pennsylvania at all, or Cody, Wyoming? Or do those places just get cut off from the connectivity of the world? We're struggling with that. We feel some obligation to keep the communities connected, but the economics ultimately aren't going to work, and pilot shortages, they're getting squeezed. That was in October of 2021. November of 2021, he continued in another quote, "We don't have enough pilots to fly all of the airplanes, so the 50-seaters are at the bottom of that pile, and markets that rely on 50-seaters are the ones that are going to lose service." And then April of this year, the pilot shortage for the industry is real, and most airlines are simply not going to be able to realize their capacity plan because there simply aren't enough pilots, at least not for the next 5+ years. The other really large airlines will also probably be able to attract enough pilots, but for anyone else, I just don't think it's mathematically possible to meet the pilot demand for the capacity plans that are out there. This followed a timeline that started back on January 3rd, where United Airlines terminated service to 11 communities served by 50-seat regional jets. Those included College Station, Texas, Evansville, Indiana, Lansing, Michigan, Wausau, Wisconsin, Tallahassee, Florida, Kalamazoo, Michigan, Columbia, Missouri, Twin Falls, Idaho, Rochester, Minnesota, Chattanooga, Tennessee, and several others. And if you know anything about any of those communities, they are larger than our community. On January 11th, SkyWest filed intent to terminate essential air service to Ogdensburg and Plattsburgh, New York. On March 9th, they filed intent to drop 18 communities from nonstops or twice daily nonstop service to once daily one-stop service, meaning that when you board the plane, you'd have to stop in another community before you got to the hub airport. And then on March 10th, the very next day, SkyWest filed intent to terminate essential air service in 29 different communities across the country, eliminating 100% of the air service in each of those communities. Following that, the Department of Transportation filed a holdover filing, meaning that SkyWest could not leave those communities until they found new airlines to provide those services. So the DOT went out to bid on a total of 31 communities, including the 2 in New York. And on this sheet, it's kind of hard to see the details, but I'll kind of give you the general gist. The green color is bids that were received for aircraft that operated with 50 seats. There's only one of them, Kearney, Nebraska. The yellow colors, there's a few of them. Those are for 30-seat aircraft. And then all the reds you see up there are for 8-seat aircraft. You'll see the bids on the columns there. The average bid received for all 31 communities, with 3 of them actually not receiving a bid at all, totaled $4.9 million per year. That was the average bid. Some of them as high as $9 million a year. Salina, Kansas, $9 million a year to operate an 8-seat aircraft twice a day, turboprop. So with propeller on the front instead of jet engines on the side. So the reality is there's not really other airlines that exist out there that can fill the market that SkyWest fills. What that means is when you go into negotiations as a small community is you don't have much leverage. Even when you're negotiating on behalf of multiple communities, you lose a lot of leverage when you know that there's nobody else out there that will come in and fill that void, which makes it difficult as you go through those negotiations. Talked about the pilot shortage. The airline industry is very cyclical due to geopolitical, economic, and regulatory changes that occur over time. We've seen it from every decade. There's been ups and downs in the airline industry. We already talked about the military pipeline of pilots. At the same time, beginning pilot pay and lack of job security from the economic downturn in the 2000s led to a period of kids not wanting to be pilots, people not wanting to be pilots. It just didn't make sense. The chart on the right there is kind of shows all the retirements over the next couple years. So what kind of regulatory impact has what kind of regulatory changes have had impact on pilot shortage? In 2013, Congress implemented what is known as the 1,500-hour rule. It increased the hours needed to receive an air transport certificate from 250 hours to 1,500 hours. It changed the rule overnight. The next highest training requirement in the world is 750 hours. So we're double what the next closest is anywhere else in the world. This increased the cost of entry for new pilots. And while pay and job security still had not come along enough, it made it so people, once again, didn't want to become pilots. And that's really caused issues as the retirements continue to pile up. The pandemic exacerbated the situation, as I mentioned earlier. In March of 2020, 97% of air travel ceased to exist. Happened overnight, March 16th, 2020. Our industry was dealt a blow where literally 97% of our business disappeared. Airlines are bleeding cash as a result. They had all that overhead. They had all the debt service for all the airplanes, all the pilots, everything. Congress provided much needed financial help, but there were strings attached to that financial help that required airlines to not lay off or furlough any pilots. Well, those are some of their highest costs. So they had to make a decision that even with that funding, it wasn't enough to bail them out. So they offered early retirement packages to pilots to get them off the payroll, because the airlines didn't believe that demand would return until 2024, 2025 at the earliest. So that happened. If they didn't do that, these airlines would have likely had to file bankruptcy throughout the pandemic. So they focused on those cost reductions. And like I said, without them, they wouldn't have existed at all. What that means, though, is we have a huge pilot shortage. It means it costs a lot to hire a pilot these days. These are some examples of some ads that I just pulled off the internet for some of the regional carriers. If you look at Envoy, which is a regional subsidiary of American Airlines, $175,000 signing bonus plus a $7,500 type rating bonus just to get hired. Just last week, Envoy agreed to a 50% increase in base pay for all of their pilots. For a Czech pilot on a regional carrier at Envoy with 3 years of experience, you will top out at a minimum of $405,000 a year. Just a few years ago, that pay was just a hair over 100,000. So it's an incredible increase in pay for pilots. You look across the board there, you have 187.5 in signing bonus with PSA, $40,000 bonuses at SkyWest, $50,000 bonuses with Commute Air. The bonuses are just insane. So if anybody out there is listening and you're looking for a career change and you're not near 65 years old, because that's a mandatory retirement age, I would strongly urge you to consider becoming a pilot because you can make a lot of money and you can only have to work 75 hours a month. You only have to fly 75 hours a month, and that's it. So great opportunity. It doesn't just stop with the pilots, though. We have aircraft issues. These are kind of taking a back seat these days because the pilot issue is so right in front of us at this point. But rural communities like ours rely almost exclusively on 50-seat regional jets. Bombardier stopped making the CRJ 200, which is what serves our community, in 2006, and Embraer stopped making the Embraer 145 back in 2020. So those are the only two 50-seat regional jets that are available in the world, and neither of them are being manufactured anymore, which means that their end of life is going to be rapidly approaching. Coupled with the aging fleet and the recent inflationary pressures, it makes it difficult to get the parts and the services. SkyWest was explaining to us to buy one fan for their jet engine, one of their metal fan blades. That cost had gone up by over 200% since the beginning of the pandemic, just to replace one metal fan blade. So SkyWest and Bombardier, to help alleviate some of this, a few years ago received approval on a process to extend the service life of the CRJ 200 by 50%, basically from 40,000 cycles, which means landings or takeoffs, to 60,000. But that only buys us out into the mid 2030s. Once that time frame hits, they will all get parked in the desert and scrapped, and there will not be any more 50-seaters unless somebody between now and then develops one. Highly unlikely would be my guess, based on the fuel efficiency of the smaller aircraft. And to make things worse, jet fuel. Jet fuel costs account for 30 to 60% of airline costs, depending on market conditions. Right now, it's actually north of 60%. Jet fuel spot prices have more than doubled from 1 year ago. The national average cost of jet fuel has risen above $7 per gallon. Here at our airport, a gallon of jet fuel, we're selling it for $7.70 a gallon right now. And that allows us to maintain the margin we need to have as an organization, but our cost to purchase is the highest it's ever been, both avgas and jet fuel. There's no end in sight for these higher prices either. All of our market forecasts that we're getting from the airlines and from our fuel suppliers are that the worldwide demand is going to continue to outpace the supply for the foreseeable future. And when I say foreseeable future, we're not just talking next couple of weeks, next couple of months, we're talking potentially next couple of years. The other thing that has impacted us, largely due to the pandemic, is we lost all business travel during the pandemic, nearly all business travel. And the thing about business travelers is they tend to book in closer to their travel dates, which means they pay more for fares. The ratio of business to leisure travel for our airport pre-pandemic was 70% business, 30% leisure on average. During the pandemic, that went to about 95% leisure, 5% business, which means our average fares dropped considerably. The average fare that people were actually paying dropped considerably, which means we got credit for less revenue for each passenger that did fly. On top of that, we lost, as I explained earlier, 97% of our traffic. So we lost that. The airlines, as I explained earlier, are risk averse. So while they have forecasted increases over the next 3 years, they're not willing to say that we're going to be back to where we were pre-pandemic on average fares or passenger numbers. So that impacts our revenue as we get into the actual contracts. What does that mean locally? The fiscal year 23 contract amount equals 198% increase over fiscal year 22. How that happened is the total cost of service is up 22.4% higher. So 8.14 million versus 6.65 million. And how that's broken down is the block hour cost. The block hour cost is a block hour is the time from when they release the brakes, like when they leave here in Rock Springs, to the time they set the brakes when they arrive in Denver. We pay per hour, and the block hour rate has increased by 27.4%. The block hour cost is 76.4% of that cost. Block hour covers things like labor for the airline, equipment maintenance, ground support, the reservation system, basically all of their overhead, their fixed overhead is all covered by the block hour cost. Our fuel cost, we already had projected a higher fuel cost in year 3 of the original negotiation. So this is only showing an 11.8% increase in that fuel cost, but that's still substantial. And that makes up that basically $1.5 million increase in cost for the service. And then when you get to revenue, there's a forecasted deficit of $1 million compared to last year. And that's due to a 13.6% lower passenger estimate and an average fare that is 7% lower than the fiscal year 22 estimate. So you add those up, that's your $2.5 million increase overall on the contract. Just a reminder, the state pays 60% of the cost. The county and the 2 cities split the 40% local match. The county does 45%, Rock Springs does 33%, and Green River does 22%. So that's the breakdown of how it's all funded traditionally. So the question is, and I've had this a lot from people, is it still worth it? Why would we pay this? Well, the economic impact of our airport and our air service is pretty robust. 27,000 annual passengers, 324 local jobs, $11.4 million annual payroll, $21.1 million of spending between the airport and our tenants and our visitors, $1.4 million annual tax revenue, and a total impact of $37 million of economic activity. Of that $37 million of the airport, 22.3 of it is directly attributed to commercial air service. And to take it one step further, as part of the economic impact study in 2020, there was a return on investment calculation done on each contract for air service going back to 2004. And for our community, for every dollar invested in air service by the state and the local community, direct impact was $13.15. That does not include any multipliers. If you know anything about economic impact studies, there's a direct, and then they have a bunch of multiplier effects. On this study, we kept the multiplier effects out of it. The direct impact is $13.15 for every dollar invested in air service. So that is everything I have on the contracts. While I was here, I was going to play a quick video of drone video of our terminal progress. I think I'm still on schedule, Mr. Chairman. Am I doing all right?
2 minutes, yeah.
Okay, I'll go quick here. I apologize.
No worries.
So the next is a quick drone video I took last week of the progress on the terminal, and hopefully it will work here. Taking a second to load. So going, there we go. No sound. So that's the front of the building with the canopy gone, or most of the canopy gone. You'll see the east addition. Structure is largely done. They're still working on getting all the decking up and the individual supports. That's where the new hold room, the new baggage claim, rental car area, micro markets, and all of that space will be. The higher ceiling area you see that we're going to come around to with the angled wall. That'll be the hold room overlooking Aspen Mountain. And while you guys are looking at this, welcome any of you to come up and do a tour of the project. Happy to show you around. Just give me a call and we'll find a time that works to get you out there and show you the project. So that's the front of the new addition, the existing building that will largely be gutted and renovated as part of the project. It's already on the inside been priced 60% of the building's been gutted. This addition on this side will house the new airport admin offices and the outbound baggage so that myself, Shannon, and our admin offices can move out of the area where the lobby will be extended in the terminal. So that's a quick fly around. I will transition to the two items that are before you today. One of the items is an agreement, an MOU amendment between YDOT and the county. And this is just changing, basically adding the next 3 years and the cost and the terms of that. It's a pretty simple amendment to the MOU. The second item is the cooperative agreement amendment between the county and the two cities for the 40% local match and splitting that for the next 3 years. Those are the two documents before you. There's a whole lot of other documents in the packet, but those are the two documents that are before you for consideration today. John did work with me on the contracts. Appreciate his time and effort on working on those. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'm sure John, if there's anything John has, he'll throw it in there as well.
Thank you, Devin. Any comments, John? Nope. Good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Brubaker?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Just a couple of questions. First of all, Devin, really great to see the progress. I was out there a couple months ago with Devin to take a tour of the progress, and it's amazing the progress it's made in the last 2 months. So good work to the crew. But a couple of questions as you talk. Number one, about that there isn't currently enough pilots, and the expectation is 4 to 5 years before they get caught up in pilots. But you also shared the stat of 5,000 to 7,000 pilots is how many domestic we produce a year. Do you think we will be caught up in pilots in the next 5 years based upon those numbers?
So it's a very good question. I spared you guys another slide that I actually hid in that presentation that talked about everything the industry is doing to try to rectify the situation, both in day-to-day operations, but also congressionally, trying to change things. And some of those things are allowing for easier access for foreign pilots to be able to access jobs here in the United States. Number two, we've seen it with the pay for pilots. That's a big increase. Number three is increasing the retirement age from 65 to 67 or 68. That only kicks the can down the road, but it provides more time to rectify the situation. The big ask of Congress is to provide more pathways to 1,500 hours. It's really difficult with Congress. There was a Colgan Air crash that happened in Buffalo, New York back in 2009, I believe it was. And the results of that accident were that it was a lack of proper training for the pilots. The Colgan Air families used that as a mechanism to lobby Congress to increase the number of hours to the 1,500 hours. The problem is both pilots in that plane had well more than 1,500 hours. It had nothing to do with the number of hours of training. It had to do with the quality of training. So our industry is arguing to Congress that would you rather have somebody in the pilot or in the cockpit that's had 1,500 hours in a single engine Cessna 172? Or would you rather have somebody in that cockpit within 500 hours and all of it's been behind a jet turbo aircraft with high performance capabilities and all of that. So that's an argument that's being had. The problem is those Colgan Air families have a very strong lobby effort in DC. And if you come out against the 1,500-hour rules as a member of Congress, you're seen as anti-safety. One of our members of delegation did that in a op-ed in the New York Times just a couple of weeks ago. Senator Lummis destroyed the premise of the 1,500-hour rule in her op-ed. So she is actively working to try to get the rules changed. She serves on the Senate Commerce Committee, which has influence over the FAA and control over the FAA. So we're hopeful that there's going to be some changes with FAA reauthorization next year. That expires currently September 30th. So we hope to have FAA reauthorization done and a lot of these things implemented by then. So sorry, long answer.
No problem.
You're used to it from me though.
And between the two of us, it may never end. Just the second question is, I know you follow the trends of the industry. So what's your guess of when it's going to turn around? Because just as a whole, even past with all the factors you've said, when do we start seeing it, a decrease in potential subsidies? When do we see the industry turn around?
So industry turnaround in terms of pilot shortage issues, my guess, 2027, 2028. I will say that the airline SkyWest is doing something very creative. I guess I can talk about it now because they filed formal documents with the DOT and we were one of the named communities on it. I just received it on Friday evening. They filed request. They basically purchased a charter operator and they are going to offer, or they're trying to get the DOT to approve offering 30-seat charter operations. And what that means is if you fly a 30-seat Part 135 charter on a 380 certificate, I know that's all a bunch of foreign lingo to you guys,
Yes.
but operating that allows them to use pilots that have less than 1,500 hours because you have a smaller number of passengers on the aircraft. It doesn't trigger that threshold where it takes you to the 1,500 hours. So it allows them to hire pilots at a lower threshold. So what their plan is to run both 50-seat and 30-seat CRJ 200s, and using the 30-seat aircraft, they can hire pilots at less hours, use them as a pipeline to fill their 50-seat pilot seats and do more training there, but also be able to provide more service to smaller communities at a lower rate. They expect to start that service fourth quarter based on their DOT filing. I have a meeting with them on Friday, with SkyWest on Friday, to determine the true impacts on us. But we did write a letter of support for their application last week because it is an opportunity where we may be able to get it may be a path to more than 2 daily flights. We may get to a third daily flight with just 30 seats. And if any of you have flown on our CRJ 200, if you can think about that plane with 20 less seats in it, it becomes a whole lot more comfortable. And I would much rather have 3 of those, which is 90 daily seats each way, than 100 seats on 2 flights a day with 50 people on the plane. So there could be a really good opportunity just on the doorstep for us. But until we know more and until the DOT approves that plan. So.
Thank you, Mr.
Yep.
Baker.
Any other questions from Mr. Brubaker?
Want to talk about your vacancy on the board? A little bit about your vacancies?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we do have a vacancy on the board before you today. It's a unexpired term for replacing Jim Wamsley, who was appointed by the city to serve on the board. So he resigned from the county's appointment. Indirectly, it's filling Brett Pizzato's position. He was our vice chairman, and as you all are aware, passed away, unfortunately. So this is indirectly filling Brett Pizzato's position, but directly filling Jim Wamsley's position on a 1-year term, basically, because it's an unexpired term through June 30th, 2023.
Thank you, Commissioner Wendling.
Thank you. Going back to your planes. SkyWest, through your presentation, appears to all the research showing getting rid of the 50 passengers. But yet, when you're out there flying, especially if you start flying in Northwest, you see this one airline who's emphasizing when you're sitting on their plane and they're selling their product, that all they want to do is fly 50 passengers and they're doing everything they can to keep it. And it's a pretty big airline. And that's Alaska. What are they doing that's different from SkyWest? Do you know?
So that's actually changed. Alaska made an announcement, gosh, I couldn't tell you when, but they are getting rid of all of their 50-seat aircraft, and they're getting rid of all of their turboprop, the Horizon Air Q400 turboprop aircraft. They are parking all of them by 2024, and they will be replacing everything with at least an Embraer 175, which is a 76-seat regional jet that looks like a small 737. And so Alaska is completely getting away from regional aircraft 100% by 2024. And to that end, the reason they're doing that is on a typical month, Alaska Airlines would lose between 2 and 5 pilots a month to attrition. They are losing 45 to 50 a month right now to attrition. SkyWest pre-pandemic was losing around 50 a month to attrition. They're now losing 250 to 300 a month to attrition.
All right, thank you. Well, that message I heard was prior to May 1st. So when I was on that plane coming out of Vancouver.
Yeah.
So that explains that. Thank you, Devin. Appreciate that.
Any other questions? Then what is your pleasure? We will start with the amendment number 2 to the memorandum of understanding between Wyoming Department of Transportation and Sweetwater County for commercial air service delivery at Southwest Wyoming Regional Airport.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Commissioner Wendling.
Yes, thank you. I'll make a motion to approve amendment number 2 to the memorandum of understanding between the Wyoming Department of Transportation and Sweetwater County for commercial air service delivery at Southwest Wyoming Regional Airport.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
And authorize chairman to sign.
Authorize.
And authorize. Thank you.
And I will second.
And we have a second as well. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. And then on tab G, what is your pleasure with amendment number 1?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve amendment 1 to the fiscal year 2020 Wyoming Commercial Air Service Improvement Plan Cooperative Agreement and authorize the chairman to sign.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, go
I'll
ahead.
second that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Devin.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. Have a great day.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you, Devin. Take care.
It's a squirrely world out there for you.
Squirrely people.
That too. You looking at me? What was that? Tab H, Memorial Hospital of Sweetwater County Annual Report. Irene Richardson and Company.
Good morning, Irene and company.
I do have some handouts, so.
Excellent. It means less writing for me, so I appreciate that. Because I can't read my writing later.
Same way.
No, I'm like, I don't know what that means. Thank you.
Irene, thank you for joining with the chamber to do the open house at the Holiday Inn. That was really great.
Oh, thank you so much. I thought it was really nice. It was very well
Yeah.
attended. Thank you for being there.
Tammy wants nothing to do with that. Huh?
I have one more handout.
Thank you, Irene.
We love goodies.
Thank you. Yep.
Nice.
Oh, yes. I was needing another one of these. I broke the lid on mine.
Those are good cups. They hold all day long too. Like, yeah, your finger.
Now you've distracted us, Irene. We're looking.
Maybe that was the point.
Yeah, she's not gonna pay any attention. Ooh,
Best ball. Here, Jeff. This
Thank
is
you.
what you need.
I know, but that's a good use.
Somebody keeps going just too long.
Honestly, I broke my last one.
Broke it. That's pretty
I broke
bad.
it. I did. It fell apart. It wore out.
Yeah, if you would.
It was a couple of years. But it wore out.
I'm not really sure, but okay. Okay. Mr. Chairman, And fellow commissioners, thank you for allowing us to present this morning. I'd like to introduce to you the people who have joined me. Tammy Love, our Chief Financial Officer, Marty Kelsey, our Board Treasurer, our Board Secretary, Ed Tardoni, our Board Treasurer, Dr. Barbara Sawada, our Board Vice President, and Tiffany Marshall, our Executive Director of the Foundation. And so thank you all for being here, and thank you for allowing us to present. I have a huge presentation, but I promise I'll keep you all on schedule here. So our agenda, we'll just go over basically the county maintenance fund and talking about the things that have transpired at the hospital. So per statute, the Board of Trustees and I on their behalf report annually at the June board meeting of the County Commissioners, all the important transactions of the previous 12 months. And so, of course, you know, we are a Joint Commission accredited 99-bed hospital, and we have over 550 employees. We serve a population in excess of 43,000 in Sweetwater County, and we have a full service hospital. So let's talk about the County Maintenance Fund to begin with. We are very grateful to the County Commissioners for your assistance with the Maintenance Fund. We want to make sure that we preserve the hospital. It was built in 1978. We want to keep this hospital building here for many, many years to come. And so we've done a lot to make sure that we've taken care of a lot of the deferred maintenance that has taken place over the years and to maintain it so that it can be here for many, many years to come. We do believe that accountability and transparency are paramount when funds are dispersed to public entities. And with you, you will find the reconciliation of all of the funds that were given to us from the county and what we use them for. You'll see routine maintenance expenditures and also capital expenditures. So you'll see the entire $938,440 that's been reconciled. And so we are, again, very grateful for that. Our Board of Trustees, Taylor Jones is our president. Again, Dr. Barbara Sawada, our vice president, Marty Kelsey, our secretary, Ed Tardoni, our treasurer, and Candy Pendleton, our board member, and our county commissioner, Mr. Chairman, Jeff Smith. I just want to thank our Board of Trustees. They bring to us a lot of different experiences and a lot of different knowledge, and they help us so much. Their direction and their dedication to the patients of Sweetwater County and our hospital is excellent. And I'm very grateful for the direction that the Board of Trustees have given us to lead our hospital into the future. Our executive leadership team, of course, myself, Irene Richardson, Carrie Quickenden, Chief Clinical Officer, Tammy Love, Chief Financial Officer, Ann Clevenger, Chief Nursing Officer, and Dr. Melinda Poyer, Chief Medical Officer. We do have some additions to my leadership team, and you can see there, I won't go through my entire presentation here, a list of services I have there, and also a list of our physicians. And I just want to give you a quick update at the hospital. We do strive to realize our vision for the future of becoming the community's trusted healthcare leader by providing exceptional patient care and focusing on quality and safety of patient care, providing excellent customer service through teamwork and positive culture, and increasing the market share and service growth and enhanced medical staff development. Like other standalone hospitals throughout the county, we faced COVID-19 related challenges. However, we did navigate the challenging climate to the best of our ability with great support from the community. We did see some increases and some change in our patient volumes. Things are kind of getting back to normal now, but we did have some volatility with our patients through COVID. We have had continued success with our University of Utah and Huntsman Cancer Center and those partnerships. We did refinance our existing debt. That did save us $275,000 in interest payments over the next 15 years, which is a savings of over $4 million. And we do enjoy a modest debt profile. We do enjoy our continued favorable relationship with the county commissioners and our strong support from our Board of Trustees. And we did have a successful Joint Commission survey in May of 2021. So I wanted to just talk to you guys a little bit about our CARES Act funds that we received in fiscal year 22. Of course, we did receive some in fiscal year 21, but this is just the fiscal year 22 that we're talking about. In October, we did receive from the Wyoming Hospital Association staff retention funds of a little over $524,000. In November, HHS stimulus ARPA rural funds in a little over $1.4 million. In December, HRSA phase 4, a little over $700,000. In January, we did receive some assistance in January and March for contract staffing. We did have some staff, nursing staff mostly, who took advantage of the increase in staff, in contract staff pay around the nation. And so the Wyoming Hospital Association did assist us with some of those expenses, a little over $400,000 there. So total COVID related assistance we received in fiscal year 22 was $3.1 million. And we were very grateful for that. And we did put that to good use, and you can see the different areas there. And again, just the fiscal 21 CARES Act funds we received were $11.6 million. So construction and maintenance, again, we talked about the building, and again, it is was built in 1978, so there is some maintenance that has to be done on it. The things that we've done, we did do some remodeling. Again, the HVAC system was the original system that was put in 1978 and in need of repair. So we were able to do that. We also did a medical imaging remodel, and those were completed in May of 2022. The building automation system is currently ongoing. We are doing some remodeling in Dr. Solentich's office upstairs in the medical office building, and that is going to start in July of 2022, and he leases space from us in that area. We are working on the bulk oxygen and central plant cleanup, which is started in May of 2022. We're going to start the chemo mixing room in the cancer center in the fall of 2022, and we're doing some lightning protection in the summer of 2022. I do want to also talk about our cash reserves so that you can kind of see the sources and uses of those funds. We did start out the fiscal year with $19,921,000. Again, additional sources we received were from the Wyoming Hospital Association of $1,458,000, and also some interest of $33,531. So a total cash sources of $21,412,531, and the uses of those of the cash, again, for the HVAC project for $2 million, $4 million for staff retention bonuses, Cerner software, network switches, medical equipment, and facilities. Also in February, $2 million for our medical imaging remodel, some medical equipment, and also in March, $2 million for additional medical imaging, the medical imaging remodel, Cerner, and also some medical equipment. So that was $10 million that we used of those funds. And so the balance is, as of April 30th, 2022, $11,412,531,000. So our cash reserves, again, our goal whenever we do have positive cash flow from operations, we do our best to invest that back into the facility. So we want to make sure that we can make sure that the building is in good repair, make sure that we take care of our staff, and we make sure that we take care of our patients with increased and additional services. We have been very successful in investing cash back into our facility by completing many infrastructure and deferred maintenance projects. This investment has resulted in an average age of plant decreasing from 15.28 years in April to 13.25 by year end, and then to 11.32 in fiscal year 2023. And that's very, very important because for the financial strength index, that's an indicator of the hospital's overall long-term financial health. And the index combines the impact of increasing operating margins, increasing cash on hand from all sources, decreasing the hospital's reliance on debt for capital, and decreasing the hospital's average age of plant, which is favorable. So that's our goal, is to make sure that we keep the plant young so that, again, we can have it here for many, many years to come. Again, moving forward with some projects that we have kind of on deck for State Land Investment Board projects. That's the SLIB money that the state has. We are planning on presenting our laboratory expansion to them. Again, this is going to allow our patients to enter directly into the laboratory area and adding additional capability of drive-through testing. We are going to submit a project for the medical office building entrance reconfiguration that was originally proposed as a sub-project last time, but we were unable to meet the guidelines. So they did approve that last time, but we're going to submit it again this year. And then our surgery suite and sterile processing, we're going to relocate our central sterile from the basement to the surgery suite and replace some floor coverings in the surgery area. So we're really excited about those 3 projects that we're going to submit. The next several slides I have, I did reach out to my leadership team to ask them if they could send me some of their accomplishments over the last year. We've done a lot of great things over the last year. I'm just so proud of my staff, and I want to give them a huge shout out right now. We couldn't have done anything without our incredible staff and our incredible physicians. They're truly amazing, and what they did for this community and our patients through COVID was just incredible. And I'm very grateful for all of them for everything that they did. But while we had the pandemic and we also implemented our new electronic health record in April of 2022, there were a lot of other things that were going on at the hospitals. So here are some highlights. And again, I won't go over all of those because I do want to keep all of you on schedule here, but please take some time to go through your handout. I did give you guys a hard copy of that. We have information here from medical surgical floor, ICU and outpatient services. I also have some information from our OB unit, labor and delivery and nursery. We talk about the cancer center. We have a lot of interesting and exciting things going on at our cancer center. But please take some time to go over that and take a look at the exciting things that they've done. We have had some laboratory cardiopulmonary. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to toward the end there, Tammy, if we want to go again straight to IT. We did implement our new Cerner electronic health record. We went live with that in April of 2022. I do think it's going to be really good for the patients. This is a fully integrated system. Prior to that, we had several different systems throughout the hospital. And now this is a full integration of our IT system. And I think it's going to be really exciting. And again, just shout out to the staff for being able to implement that through all the things that we went through with COVID. And I'm really, really proud of them for that. Talking about COVID really quick, just going over a couple of highlights. We did continue to manage the COVID pandemic. We did have several large surges of patients throughout fiscal year 22. We did provide over 49,000 COVID tests through our drive-through station. And we did offer vaccines to over 3,900 residents of the area. And also that was through our drive-through clinic. We were able again to provide that through our foundation lab and our drive-through lab. So we were really excited to do that. And again, one more time, just want to thank my staff and the board for all of their support through the COVID pandemic. It was very challenging, but I think we did a really good job taking care of the community through COVID. And then finally, let's see, we did have some community service events and really excited to put those on. I did kind of want to talk about our statistics. As you can see here, we do have a lot of people that we serve in the community. Over 15,000 emergency room visits, over 65,000 clinic visits, over 70,000 lab visits, over 23,000 imaging visits. inpatient days and inpatient admits and patient days, almost 400 births, over 1,600 surgeries. We have our dialysis unit. It continues to grow, over 5,200 treatments, over 3,500 cancer treatments. And then you can see all of the other numbers there. So we're really proud of the work that we do at the hospital, and we do serve a lot of people in the community.
I think with 400 births, that probably contributed greatly to the diaper count or something. We don't wash diapers anymore of the laundry.
Right. Oh, yeah, the pounds of laundry. Yeah. And again, I just do want to thank our Commissioner Smith and all the commissioners for all of your help and support. We are very grateful, and we do our best to take care of the patients and the community here in Sweetwater County. We're very grateful to do that. And again, to make sure that our hospital is here and able to serve the public for a very, very long time in the future. So does anyone have any questions?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation and the kind words. Questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lloyd?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. First of all, I want to just thank you for all the work you guys do. It's amazing. And I think the advent of the same day visitor center as needed visits has been a great boon to this community, and it's probably helped with the overload in the emergency room. So I think that concept has been fantastic. So kudos to listening to the public and the needs and finding a way to address those. A couple of questions. I know we're facing a national nursing shortage wherever you go. How is that affecting hospital budget, recruiting nurses, and having the proper numbers we need? Irene.
Thank you, Commissioner Lloyd. That's a really good point. So, it's affecting all of the hospitals around the state, the region, and the nation. And a lot of staff left to go take, again, like I said, take advantage of those higher wages that were being paid through contracts. And we did experience that ourselves. So that did significantly impact our budget, as you saw with the budget resolution. A lot of that was due to staffing. So because we were having to pay those huge costs for that. So we are working on trying to recruit our own staff. Obviously, that's favorable for what we would like to do. We've presented the board with a budget that will allow us to do that, to hopefully be able to recruit and retain our existing staff so that we don't have to pay those large costs in contract staffing. So that's our goal for the fiscal year 2023 budget, is to reduce those contract expenses for those agency costs and be able to hire our own staff. And hopefully we can do that. That's what we're trying to do, trying to attract staff to come back here and work permanently rather than through contracts.
Thank you, Irene.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Commissioner Wendland?
Thank you. I wanted to go back to those births. School district thanks the parents, because that's job security, but also that tells me that I know they're not all Rock Springs births, but gosh, a kindergarten class in the county of almost 500 to 600. That's incredible.
Yes.
That's another bubble coming through, but
Right.
job security.
Yep.
And going back to your projects that you're working with the slid board, how important is it to have matching money for those projects working with the sled?
It's very important. There is a match that's required, and I do believe it's a one-to-one match. And any assistance that we could get from the commissioners would be very welcome, because it is, like I said, trying to put back into the hospital. And so we have to show that we have the matching funds available before we can apply for the grant. So again, like I said, any assistance would be very, very welcome.
Do you know the costs of those projects?
We do have the cost of the projects. I believe that we, Tiffany, we're talking about the lab project, the 8.7 million. We are talking about submitting with our lab project. We originally talked about $6.2 million to actually remodel the lot lab so that we could extend it to the parking lot and we could kind of mirror what we did at the foundation. And that was about $6.2 million.
Wasn't that the project you were hoping to get on the 6 penny?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Or the special purpose, I'm sorry. I think once you know that, you might let your contact, Chairman Smith, know.
Okay.
So when you're ready to apply, as you know, the county has ARPA money that they've received, and it's sitting in reserves, as well as we'll get a PIL payment. We don't know when, and that type of thing. But you know, those dollars need to go back into the community, especially, in my opinion. I'm only one commissioner, but if you know, especially in the healthcare area for our hospitals. So I would particularly like to know what those amounts are to of those projects, and I'd like to some way how help to maybe get the commission to commit to some match money for those SLIB projects.
Thank you. We would really appreciate that. These are projects, again, that are designed to enhance the building and keep it here and in operation for several years to come. And that would be very, very nice of the commission if they would do that. And we would be very grateful for
Thank
that. So
you.
yes, we will come to you for assistance if that's available.
Thank you.
I'll comment on that and say, I think it's great. We're going to take some federal money through the state and then turn it into more federal money from the state. So there's no better purpose, I don't think,
Win-win.
you know, yeah. If we turn 3 million of their money given to us into 6 million given from them, I mean, that's awesome. So,
Especially when you think of the number of people in the county that will impact versus
Absolutely.
any other project.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for those comments. Any other comments? Okay, well, thank you. And thank you for the majority of your board being here. Who's behind you? Oh, is Tiffany behind you? Good.
Yes, yes,
I like
thank
that.
you. And also I did have Susan Campbell here, but you let her have the rest
I
of the
did.
day off.
You've done some, you should take the rest of the day off too.
Okay. thank you.
Thank you, Irene. Thank you, board members. Let Taylor know we missed him.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
much appreciated. Great work there. We are going to take a short break, if that's okay, Ashley. All right. We will return at 10 minutes after 10. Take a 10-minute break. I call this meeting back to order. We are on to tab I. Request approval of Amendment 2 to contract between Wyoming Military Department and Sweetwater County regarding Uinta County VSO, Veteran Services Office.
Thank you. My name is Ashley Smith. I'm the HR specialist for the county. And we are, like you said, requesting approval and for the chairman to sign this amendment 2. So this will be the 3rd year running, really 2.5 years, but we've had 1 full year and have been reimbursed for our VSO person in Uinta County for $17,000 in 1 year, which is $17,000 more than we got from anybody the last couple of years. So they're requesting an extension of the contract, and really there's no other changes. It's been a pretty good mileage reimbursement. Same with the hourly rate. It's kind of a loaded hourly rate. So then that way we're really not losing out too much money for her spending time in Uinta County versus Lincoln 1 day a week.
Nice.
Yes.
Mr. De Leon, any comments on the contract? Questions for Ashley? None. Then what is your pleasure, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Wendling.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment 2 to contract between Wyoming Military Department and Sweetwater County regarding Uinta County VSO and authorize chairman to sign.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
On to tab J. Brenda, welcome aboard. Request to restaff vacancies and additional positions. We have a number of them.
Yes, I do. Thank you. And good morning, Mr. Chairman and County Commissioners.
Good morning.
The first request is to restaff a vacant equipment operator position in the Road and Bridge Department. Unfortunately, we've recently had a death in the county for one of our county employees. So we're requesting to restaff that position. Potentially, there could be an increase in the budget because of that position of roughly $7,600, depending on health insurance. We're planning on, when we restaff, potentially to restaff also at that lateral entry rate.
Good questions, comments? Then what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Shanefield.
I will make a motion to restaff the road and bridge equipment operator position as presented
And
authorize chairman to sign.
thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I would be happy to second that motion.
Thank you. A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. On to IT department.
Before you is a request for an additional position in the fiscal year 23 budget. This position previously was staffed. We had an employee who retired pursuant to the voluntary separation program last year. So he retired in January of 2021. So the position's been vacant and it was eliminated out of last year's budget. So it's been vacant for 1.5 years. But we are requesting permission to restaff that position and add it back in the budget. Currently, it is not in the IT budget. So we're anticipating, based on lateral entry service as well as health insurance, that the position would be roughly $149,000 total annually.
Thank you. Mr. Knight, you hiding back there? There you are. Want to come make any comments? Fellas?
Sure, I can.
Give us a pitch.
Make some comments if you want.
I would. I'd like that. Thank you.
Yeah, we've tried to work with just 6 in IT for a while, which we've done okay of just maintaining the systems. But as we start to move forward with the additional projects and with all of those things, we're finding that we're just not able to keep up with the existing demand. And so I'm having my help desk person, for example, is helping with systems. He's not getting the computers out. And so we're just struggling a little bit. We can continue to maintain if we need to, but it would be really nice to have that person so we can be more proactive and do the things that a good IT department does.
I know we've talked in the past about struggles with staffing and, trying to keep IT people here around. Is this something you feel with this salary that it'll be competitive, you'll be able to fill?
I hope so. I mean,
Hopeful.
we'll see. And it'll probably take a little time to fill it. So I don't think we'll be filling it right away, but we'll see what's out there and hopefully we'll be able to find someone good to come in.
Thank you. Questions? Any other questions? Commissioner Wendling.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Yes.
Ms. Rail, did you mention that it may be that this possible pricing would be entry level?
This position would actually be at lateral entry. So
Okay.
yeah, entry level for the first 6 months. And then after 6 months, then we review an employee's previous history to see previous work history to see if we can move him,
Okay.
In the pay plan.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lloyd.
just a comment. I had a chance to go meet with Director Knight yesterday just to kind of talk about why we was asking. And I think this also brings up a bigger question in general, I think throughout the county. And when we started some of our budgeting, we talked about a potential need eventually to take a look at some of our departments, because through some of the VSO, some of our departments, I feel we are understaffed in. And I think this is a great example of, we've seen benefits from the VSO and we've seen directors and employees make sacrifices to help us to get to a really good point in the budget, but that has also crippled us in some of our ways of performing our duties. And so I think this is a great example of taking an evaluation of that process and in talking to Tim with, his employees are already spread pretty thin, doing things outside of their scope. And with the advent of these new additional programs, definitely need a greater eyesight into some of the magnitude of these. So I would really support those. And I think down the road, I would support us taking a look at departments to make sure where we are at in staffing levels, because I think we would find that some were maybe possibly overstaffed at very low numbers in those areas because of the VSOs. But I would think we would find some departments that could use some help based upon some of the decreases we've seen. And when you look at just the base numbers, as a county I think 8 years ago, when I've had conversations with some people that, these numbers aren't always the most accurate and true concepts, but we're down like 78 to 80 full-time positions in almost 10 years. And if that's not becoming more efficient, I don't know what is. But with that being said, there is going to be some negatives into some of those moves. And so I think it's time to evaluate where we're at in some of those areas also. So, but I would support this based upon my conversation with Mr. Knight.
Thank you. Other comments?
Just thank you for your wonderful service to some of us who are more handicapped, but also for helping to put the museum online in the Conservation District. I know those were additional duties that were outside of your scope. Thank you.
What is your pleasure then, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to hire a systems, a new employee in the information technology department as a systems administrator as presented, and let the chairman sign all required documents.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. On to the county attorney.
I will add that into the budget then, the vacancy.
Please do. We got a workshop this afternoon. Yeah.
I'll get that updated today. Our next request is deputy county and prosecuting attorney. We have a vacancy in the county attorney's office for a deputy county and prosecuting attorney. We have an employee who will be relocating, and it's going to be sometime in July. We're not certain of a date yet. We would like authorization to hire somebody immediately so that we have the opportunity to do some training, transfer of cases and such. Potentially, there's a decrease to the budget because the individual that's in that position now is at a higher rate of pay. And when we bring somebody in, it would be a lower rate of pay, even though the health insurance potentially would be higher.
Excellent. Questions? It's a hard one to argue with, less money.
Just don't let Mr. De Leon leave us.
That's right. Then what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to replace that position
Thank you. I have a motion. Do we have a second?
And authorize chairman to sign.
and authorize the chairman to sign.
And I'll
Perfect.
second.
Thank you. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. And on to detention center.
My last request is to request to restaff a vacant position in the detention center as a control room worker. The last board meeting, I came before you and requested the food service worker, and then we had taken one of them off the table. So we did transfer an employee that was in control room to food service worker lead, which left that vacancy. So that was about June 9th. So we are requesting just to restaff that position immediately because that position is currently vacant. Potentially, there's an increase to the budget, again, because of health insurance costs. We don't have any control over that.
But still at a lower step than.
Correct, yes. Lower rate of pay.
Excellent. Questions?
I have
Yes, Commissioner Shamefeld.
Is this a civilian position?
It is, yes.
Okay. And then my other question is the control room space ADA accessible? I had somebody asking me about that. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
For reasons we won't go into, I spent a lot of time in there. Yeah, it is ADA accessible.
It's okay.
Well, and beyond. Any other questions? Excellent. What is your pleasure, Commissioners?
Chairman.
Commissioner Wendling.
Yes, I'll make a motion that we approve the restaffing of the position in the sheriff's office at the detention center for a control room worker and authorize chairman to sign.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Brenda. Appreciate it. Tab K, award of dive boat for Sheriff's Department with ARPA funds. Thanks for visiting, Danny.
Thank you.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Get my folder out here. So in your packet, as you know, the board approved some ARPA funds for the Sheriff's Department to replace their current dive boat. We let the bid, as you can see on the list, we sent it out to seven people. I actually got another response back from Hard Drive Marina. The gentleman didn't read the board or the bid packet very well. And after we had opened the bids, he called with questions on the spec. And I said, I hate to tell you, sir, but we've already opened the bids. And so through that discussion with him, as I share the pricing of the boat with you, he actually said that his price would be around the $350,000 mark. So he was within the bids that we received. So we did receive two bids, one from Elastec American Marine out of Illinois, and one from Monson Boats out of Washington. The one from Elastec, their total bid was $455,785.54, and Monson Boats out of Washington was $309,643. Just to let the board know, that is over the amount of ARPA funds that was approved by the board for this purchase. Christina is here with us today to address that issue. So we kind of wanted to let you know that based on your award.
Thank you. What was the engineer's bid on this? No, I'm just kidding.
750.
We're well within then. Excellent. Ms. Marshall, comments for us with our.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, last night I emailed you a cheat sheet for reference. So since this process started, the anticipated shortfall has increased 7%. So I want you to take a good look at what you've approved for ARPA funds. As a side note, I know the commission will be looking at additional projects for ARPA as we continue through the calendar years. I would like to mention ARPA funding cannot be used as a grant match for other ARPA grants coming up as a, for example, SLIB grants, just a note. So anyhow, the bottom line though today is we're looking at a shortfall of $20,743. My recommendation is that if the commission approves the bid for the lower bid, that you include in the motion to increase the ARPA allocation by $20,743.
40 what, Christina?
$20,743. And with that, I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
Any questions?
I have a question. Why was there such a huge difference in the bids? I mean,
Actually, I've spoken to both of these companies. The one from Elastec, his problem is he cannot get workers.
oh,
There's himself and another worker. He has 8 open positions and he can't fill them at $35 an hour. So that's the difference.
Fair enough. Any other questions? Then what is your pleasure with our dive boat and rescue boat?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Shanefield.
I would make a motion to accept the bid from Munson Boats out of Washington at $309,643 as presented, and increase the ARPA allocation to increase it to $20,743.
Excellent.
Mr. Chairman, I would second that,
We have a motion and a second. Further
providing
discussion?
we get a ride, you know.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
does the chairman need to sign that?
No, there will be no
Okay, very
documents
good.
for the chairman.
Will we see this boat in our lifetime?
It's estimated for 23 months, so 2 years. Hopefully in our lifetime, we get to see it.
I hope so.
On my elected lifetime, maybe, but we'll see. Excellent. We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. We'll stick with you, Marty, and let's talk about surplus vehicles.
So the next item on the agenda, the Sheriff's Department actually got a request from Lovell Police Department in Lovell, Wyoming, requesting if we had a surplus dog truck. I spoke with the Sheriff's Department, Joe Tomich in particular. We do have a surplus dog truck that was going to be in our next vehicle sale. This is something that the commission has done in the past, is we have donated to other agencies and counties within the state. This particular truck is a 2010. It has 130,000 miles on it. So it would have went into our vehicle sale, our upcoming vehicle sale. So that's the first one. Do you want to do them in order each individually, or do you want to do them as a group, Mr. Chairman?
Let's group them.
Okay. The second one is I received a request from the Ray Lovato Center in Rock Springs. They were looking to see if we had a surplus pickup that they will use to pull their recycling trailer around and pick that up. So they had requested if we had any, they would greatly appreciate one from the county. The other one, I believe he's the mayor out at Wamsut, or excuse me, Superior. Dominic Wolf had called me, and at first he asked for if we'd have a surplus pickup for their town use. Then he called back and said, you know, we could really use an SUV over a pickup. I will tell you currently, right now, we do not have an SUV. We did just get the new vehicles in for the sheriff's department just the other day. So once those are upfitted and out into the field, we may have one come available. And as we go through the fleet, we've been working on that, downsizing the fleet. So there may be one that comes up that would be suitable for them. But currently, we do have a pickup that we could potentially donate to the Ray Lovato Center if that's what the board is pleasure. And that's what I have.
Thank you. And when we donate these, they become their responsibility.
Correct.
maintenance,
We will sign the titles over to them and they'll be in charge of the insurance and all of that.
And our benefit is?
Nice guys
Being
and
good neighbors,
gals.
right?
Yes.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Wendling.
Ray Lovato Recycling, is that a private business?
Isn't that run by the city?
I don't know.
I don't know either, Doc. I'm sorry, I don't. I thought it was part of the city.
Yeah, I think it is.
It
I don't
is.
think it's private.
It's what?
Part of the city?
Is it part of the city?
I think it is with the city of Rock Springs, but I wouldn't swear to that.
Yeah, the only thing is if it's part of the city, then, it's taxpayers' money going back to taxpayers, but
Right.
if,
It's a 501c3. I just looked it up.
did you?
They're a nonprofit recycling center, 501c3.
Very good, thank you.
Yep.
Well done. Fancy internet. Nice job. What's your pleasure, commissioners? Do you want to take, well, let me ask this, with the Superior request from Mayor Wolf, should we wait and act on that when one's available?
It's totally up to the board. If one come available, if the board acted on it today, then we would just do that transfer at that
Chairman.
time, or I can bring it back before the board.
I think what it amounts to is with Superior. I think we should authorize Marty to work with the Mayor Wolf and let him have a look at what the SUV is going to be, that maybe, make sure one's available, have him look at it, and then let him make his choice of an SUV or a pickup.
Okay,
Would that work?
sure.
Anybody have an issue with acting on these all together then?
I got to act on it separate. If you want to make that a separate motion or not.
If we're in agreement that we will move forward with all these, I think we can do them all in one motion unless there's any dissent. Just
right.
checking ahead of time.
And,
Mr. Chairman, no. If you believe that, John, one motion? Okay, Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Wendling.
I'll make a motion that we approve the request from Lovell Police Department for assistance with a surplus animal control vehicle. 2, requests from Ray Lovato Recycling Center for a surplus pickup. And also Town of Superior regarding either SUV or pickup, and their mayor can choose.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
allow the chairman to sign all the, title documents.
Yeah.
That was part of my second, Marty.
We'll go with that.
That's automatic.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you, Marty. Have a good day. Be a good day to be golfing, Marty.
We'll move past our break. We're getting closer to being on time. This is good. So tab M, authorization of a special prosecutor, Mr. De Leon.
The county attorney made a request for review with the board's approval. Sublette County attorney has agreed to review this matter and potentially prosecute if anything is determined. So with your approval, we would ask for a motion to approve resolution 22-06 CC 03, authorization of a special prosecutor.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. De Leon? Then what is your pleasure, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Shanefield.
I will make a motion to approve resolution 22-06-CC-03, a resolution authorizing the appointment of a special prosecutor.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I can,
Second.
I can second that, or
You choose, Sally. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
who did
Any-
Sally choose?
None opposed. Good. Moving along, tab N, ratifying comments from the RMP's application to increase rates. Commissioner Toman.
This is comments that have gone through the Coalition of Local Governments to regarding Rocky Mountain Power's proposed rate increase. I would just entertain or make a motion to ratify those comments submitted on our behalf and reviewed previously by the board.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have discussion or questions for Commissioner Toman? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. And final protest on the Wild Horse proposed RMP amendment and FEIS. Commissioner Toman.
The letter is attached. Again, it's ratified comments submitted on our behalf and that we have previously reviewed regarding the Bureau of Land Management's proposed resource management plan amendment and FEIS regarding wild horses. And I will note that the Wild Horse Loop Tour has now been approved to have wild horses on it. So I know the cities were concerned about that.
That's good. It's the Wild Horse Loop is not quite the same without the wild horses. So that's good to know.
Well, these are wild horses with saddle marks on them, I should note, but you know, they are colorful.
Still wild. Yeah.
I would make a motion to ratify those comments.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Tab O, University of Wyoming Extension Agreement. Oh, double dipping today.
Did you have to drive to Laramie to twist arms to really get those people to sign that? Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, good morning, commissioners. We,
If you'd introduce yourselves, please, just quickly.
Bridget Faith, the interim associate director with University of Wyoming Extension.
And Marty Henry, the Sweetwater County 4-H educator and county coordinator.
Thank you.
Just here to present the memorandum of understanding as submitted by you as a proposal, those changes for this year's agreement. So.
Sir, will you please speak in the mic? I couldn't hear you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, just here to submit the memorandum of understanding as change or as with the edits that you as a county made in suggestion for this this agreement, including limiting it to a 1-year term.
Thank you. Questions? Mr. Daly, on how do things look?
Looks good. This agreement, as stated, is for 1 year. It allows the, there will be 2 follow-up agreements for employee agreements for their salaries. This agreement has 3 things that this board asked to have in this agreement. That they will fill out a funding request form during the budget process, that they will identify the federal, state, and county funds received for extension services and how those funds are apportioned to all counties. So it's just sort of getting into that extension process. And so during the next year, that that information will be presented to the board. And then I believe right now there are 1 or 2 educators. One. So the old agreement sort of identified 2. This one identifies 1 because those were the circumstances. So it's accurate to that extent. And then if there is a second one during the course of the year, which is something that was being discussed, then they would simply communicate with you in terms of what area of focus that second educator would potentially be.
Thank you. It's been a while since we saw this the first time. Is this ours? Did we write this?
Yes.
Okay.
So there was a 5-year one that was in place previously. So this is a takeoff of that one with some changes. The one that was in place before had a lot of, I guess, responsibilities for the county in terms of the building. And so that was presented to the Public Works Director, modified a bit, and then language added in terms of trying to understand the nature of the extension, how those federal funds are coming in, how they're given to all the counties. And so this is just saying to explain all of that, those federal monies to the board in the next year.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm not sure we would change it, but because we've worked on this and agreed to it, but does having just a 1-year agreement affect your stability, or, I mean, we're paying some salary and things, so.
Yeah, it's not our preference. We have standardized those as 4-year agreements throughout the state. We're willing to do the 1 year, but like I said, it's not our preference. Certainly 4 years allows us a little bit more planning horizon and time, but.
Very good. We'll work on that for next year, maybe. Yeah. Excellent. Other questions or comments from the board? Then what is your pleasure, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to sign the UW extension agreement and authorize chairman to sign. And thank you for your patience. I know you've come repeatedly. We appreciate it.
Well, we thank you for your patience in letting our legal examine and re-examine the document. So.
Happy to do it. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John, thanks for your work on that.
Yes. Tab P, District Board of Health, Kim Lineberger. Hello. Good morning.
I did bring Sarah Geffrey, Environmental Health Supervisor, with me as well in case there was questions related to the environmental health portion of the Board of Health. She would definitely know more about that.
Hello, Sarah. Welcome aboard.
Yeah. Charlie was hoping to be here today as well. He is in court, so our board attorney isn't here. So if there's something that comes up contract-wise that John isn't able to help with, then I'll just have to go back with Charlie and go from there.
Good.
So this is the first year that I'm aware of that we've had a contract with the county commissioners. And so this is a new process for the Board of Health. And so Charlie did provide the contract last week that had gone between him and John De Leon. So he's done the majority of the questioning and the clarifying there. And so I don't have any more questions with the contract. He's kind of taking care of that for us. And so, yeah.
Okay.
So if there's questions that you have for me about anything, I'm happy to answer what I can.
Excellent. Questions then? Mr. De Leon.
So I did want to clarify that the amount of the budget request, I believe, was $539,000, correct?
I think, and some change, like added up the 72 for the CHO, the 185 for environmental health, and then the 282, 255 is about that 539 amount. Yes.
So as Kim stated, this is the first year. There have been contracts with a lot of the other entities. And so they're sort of in the second tier of the processes of developing contracts. The main parts of this contract simply identify the main services that the District Board of Health provides. I don't think that there are a whole lot. The requests are from the board are that the District Board of Health look into the efficiencies in terms of the inspection process and to be able to identify how those funds are being used. So to itemize. So there's not it's essentially looking at next year and it's preparing the discussions for next year. No real immediate asks for this year. So that's the request in terms of that program. And to essentially for the board to be able to recognize there are some statutory components to it. And so that's why the board finds that this commission finds that to be important because it does connect to some statutory requirements. And so that's that piece of it. The second piece that was important that we spoke about is that there is some language in the statute when you talk about the District Board of Health that discusses a city appropriation. And that's not something that has really, I think, happened in the past. And so it's simply asking the District Board of Health to review that statutory language, see what their thoughts are on it, and to be able to discuss it amongst themselves. And then with this board to determine how the city appropriation and the use of a shall as it relates to that city appropriation, what that means, if anything, and to discuss that essentially before next year. So again, these are preparations for next year's discussion. And then the third piece of it is when you talk about the funds received, the county treasurer shall serve as treasurer also for the District Board of Health. And so it's just saying to get together with the county treasurer and to ensure that monies are received and distributed according to statute. So again, all three are simply saying these are things that were noticed. Let us know your thoughts, discuss it with the two boards and get on the same page on those issues.
Thank you. Kim, you don't have any issues with as the contract is presented?
No, I would like to clarify what the efficiencies that you guys are wondering about related to environmental health though. Like, was there something that came up, a question or something related to that specific area?
I think in my discussions with John, it was just making sure that we look at things, and I don't know that it's much different than what you're doing, but we're asking more for that to come back our way, information, saying this is what we did this past year, this is what we're looking at doing, this is how much money it may save, or maybe this saves us time, whatever the case may be.
Okay. So historically it was staffed with 4 members, 3 inspectors, and then an admin staff, and we've had 1 inspector and 1 admin staff for 4 years. 5 years. So I'm like, there's 5 years. Like, I don't know how more efficient you get than like having 1 inspector do everything for the county.
Should be more efficient.
I don't know. I think one of the things that does lack right now with not having another inspector is some of the education. And if you want to steal the thunder and kind of, take over, is there's not like a lot of education as far as like serve safe programs to restaurants, or even, going into a school. Some of those high school students work a lot in fast food type industry. And that's one thing that we just can't provide right now, with having only one inspector being responsible for the inspections of the restaurants and the septics and the tattoos and childcare and all those things. That's one thing that has been left behind, is some of that community education around food handlings, education. So.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
is this in a county building?
Yes. Yep, it's at the Health and Human, yep,
okay,
HHS
yes.
building. Yes, yep.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman. Oh, wait, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, and this is a question for John DeLeon, and maybe we need to get the right number for section 4.1, because it doesn't have an amount in it.
So the amount that I have written in here is $539,255.
Okay, thank you.
Which is the budget request
Yep.
amount.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Wendling.
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to thank you for not requesting an increase.
Nope.
Appreciate that. In that, but my question might be more for Mr. De Leon. In the statutes, when it says visiting with the cities or possible cities, assistance with funding, in this case, does it mean Green River and Rock Springs?
Yes.
It does. Thank you. Yeah, and I would, on that point alone, I would highly suggest, knowing how the cities work, that if you approach them at the last minute towards March or April, when they're doing budgets, they'll find a lot of excuses, our budget's is done, we're already cramped. So I'd start those conversations real early and that type of thing. If
Right.
I were you guys, in regarding to the statutes and requesting
Right.
that.
The
Okay.
resolution that was adopted, which I think Charlie provided to Mr. De Leon, didn't mention any city funding in that resolution that was adopted. So I don't know what that means then going forward, when
Well,
the
it would
original
be-
resolution didn't say anything about city
No,
funding.
but it would be for the next budget.
No, I know, but when like the Board of Health was formed back in 2011,
Mhm.
when it was formed, the resolution that was adopted with that didn't include any city funding.
I believe this MOU now will give better guidance towards support of the statutes. Is that correct, John?
So yeah, so again, the statute does have a shall attached to the city appropriation when there is a district. As identified, there weren't any discussions about payments before. So it's just trying to reconcile the statute that has a shall next to city appropriation for a district. And in this particular case, the board members are appointed by the three entities, which is what creates a district versus a county. Okay, and so because it is a district and are those additional appointments, that's where the statute has a shall attached. And so again, the agreement is simply communicating between the two boards, meaning the district board and this board, saying, hey, what are your thoughts on what this means and how to best address it moving forward? So there can be future discussions with this board and Kim and that board whenever you choose. Could be here in a couple months. Say, hey, have you had a chance to look at that? What are your thoughts on it? Does it have any meaning? Does it change anything at all? Maybe the answer is that it doesn't change anything at all. Maybe the answer is that it does merit a discussion, and it's simply saying, take a look at it and develop your thoughts.
Thank you.
So
And
opening the
if
door and
nothing-
clarify.
Yeah, and then nothing else, that there is a request from cities and nothing fundings from them. We've done our due diligence of pursuing that shall in the statute. Am I understanding that correctly?
So again, it depends on the interpretation of what that shall means.
Okay.
So
Sounds like.
To those
shall.
paying the bill, it means something different than those that
right.
you're asking to help pay the bill.
Right, for sure.
yes, I mean, I think if you reduce it to, I mean, there's only so much that the board can do.
Right.
And so,
right.
yes, I think that would accomplish due diligence.
Okay.
But again, as the Commissioner Wendling identified that, you know, having some discussions in advance, trying to develop an understanding.
Right.
And then what does shall mean? Shall appropriate could technically mean $1. So, you know, there's only so much, I guess, that you can do in terms of making a request.
Right. Okay, got it.
Excellent. What's your pleasure, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I will make a motion to approve the District Health Department agreement between the Board of County Commissioners for Sweetwater County and the Sweetwater County District Board of Health as presented with the amendment of section 4.1, adding $539,255 in that section as it is left out of what we have in front of us. And authorize chairman to sign, I think.
Nice job. Look at that. That's why you're here. You do good work. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Thank
We're
you.
agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
You're off the hook for at least another year.
There you go. Tab Q, Council Rock Ambulance Agreement Extension. Bailey Doctor, welcome. Happy to have you.
Good. Thanks for having me. We are requesting from you this year, our original ambulance request that we put in for the budget this year was the same per call subsidy that Sweetwater Medics is getting from you for this upcoming fiscal year, at least for the first 6 months until we transition into one countywide service. So that per call subsidy comes out to $460 per call because that's what you're giving to Sweetwater Medics. We base our request off of what they're requesting from the county, and they have double the calls that we do. So they're getting about $3,000 or 3,000 calls per year, and their subsidy is 1.4 million. Our calls per year are 1,500. So we're requesting 700,000 from you. If it's the first 6 months that it takes us to transition into a new service, then it would be, you know, half of that, 350,000. So reimbursed on a monthly basis. One thing that I did want to call your attention to is that Sweetwater Medics did receive an additional $450,000 per year from you last year because they were not getting transports any longer. That was the kind of the way that it was presented to the commissioners. And so that just want to make sure everybody's aware that that has not fully come to fruition. They are still taking about 1 call a day from Memorial to the airport in Rock Springs. Our average transports per day are our average transport that we get is about one transfer every day and a half. So that's to Salt Lake. Those are reimbursed higher, but our revenue that we're going to get from transports for these next 6 months is very comparable to what Sweetwater Medics is going to get for the next 6 months because we're not being used for the airport transports, which is okay. But just apples to apples, I feel like it's fair that you reimburse Green River the same amount per call that you're giving to Rock Springs.
What was that amount?
It's 700,000
For the year?
Yes,
700 what?
$700,000.
Even?
Yes. And the per call subsidy is $460.
And that's for the year,
Yes, sir.
July 1 to June 30th.
Yes. Of course, if our transition happens earlier and we can acquire Sweetwater Medic staff, you know, within the first 6 months, then we would just be asking for that reimbursement on a monthly basis. So you could save half that money if we can make it happen in 6 months, which I'm really hopeful that we can. We're making good progress on that so far.
I think I misunderstood our conversation this morning. Then. I thought we were going to agree upon $348,000 for the annual subsidy paid monthly until the transition.
If that's, sorry, if I wasn't supposed to present our budget that we requested a couple of months ago, that's my misunderstanding. We did speak this morning. I understand, we all understand budgets. We all understand that things are tight, and I did speak with our board chair this morning as well. And if you feel like it's fair that we get 350,000, we can make that work. I don't know that we can take a lot less than that because we have additional staff that we're bringing on to try to help with transports. So, and help with the transition. We're going to have to hire some HR people as well. So, anyways, that's really, if that's something that's what you feel like you can budget, we will make it work as well. So we really appreciate being able to work with you all. I just wanted to present to you what our original ask was, and
okay,
sorry, that's what I thought I was supposed to be doing today.
All
So,
good. No.
okay.
Yeah, I guess I'm jumping the gun a little bit.
Well, Mr. Chairman, is that just a difference between 6 months or a year contract?
No, annually, the original request was 700, and annually, we'd like to revert back to year before last it was 348, so 350,000 for the year, paid monthly until the transition takes place.
So you're just talking 6 months, basically.
Yeah, I asked Bonnie to put it in through November, and then just budget wise, whenever it happens in reality, we'll find out. But because of the dollar amount, starting in December, we would go to the higher dollar amount. May transition earlier, but whenever the transition does happen, then the payments to medics will stop as well. So really the money will be shifted
From medics to Castle Rock.
But I didn't want to, I just kind of.
Does the math work out in that?
Sorry?
Does the math work out in that? The math?
As far as, oh, you mean the decreasing the original ask? Is that what you're asking? We will be fine. If we get the subsidy for 350,000, we will be fine. The difference that I see is our projections for transports at this point, because we started taking transports in October, ground transports from the hospital. We didn't get all of them. We started getting all of them in January, as far as to Salt Lake City or to somewhere else further than the airport. So it's about 200,000 in profit that you can make off of transports. Now that shores us up so that we're not losing as much on ambulance. So that helps. If we weren't getting any of the transports, I'd be asking for half of what medics is getting. But since we are getting transports, it's just keep in mind that medics is as well. So I do appreciate not getting 250,000 again, up to 348 for the year is really helpful. Simply because that $100,000 difference is probably actually makes up for that loss in the actual transports. It's probably not quite, but we can make it work. So.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions?
Well, yes, I'm totally confused now. What are we going to authorize?
348,000 from July 1st until June 30th would be our, prorated per month until we can make a transition with Sweetwater medics. So I don't know what that works out to per month. Do you?
Anyway. I didn't do that math. No. I did it the way you said. That's the annually and then paid out monthly.
Mm-hmm.
Good question. Other questions? Excellent. Then what's your desire, commissioners, on the agreement between the Board of County Commissioners of Sweetwater County and the Castle Rock Hospital District?
Mr. Chairman, as I'm looking through this agreement, there's some highlighted sections, and there is no cost in this one either. There hasn't been in the past few. So it's 348,000 divided into 12 monthly payments amounts. Is that correct?
Correct.
Hold it.
And that's because.
But this is also July 1st through June 30th, 2023.
We'll have to.
And then the other, whenever the transition takes place,
Then we'll.
the new contract that we've already agreed to will take effect.
Correct, but if it's 348,000 divided over 12 months, as outlined in here, you're going to be getting,
174.
is that correct?
That's correct. Okay. It's not what we originally asked for, but yes, that's correct. We can make that work.
I caught her at a good moment.
I just wanted to make sure, because there's some, like I said, there's stuff that's not filled in here, and we need to make sure it's right.
John's provided probably, I don't know how many to Sally and back, I mean, we've
So
done a lot of,
The
so I
contract for
appreciate the work
signature
there.
Does have 348.
just a quick question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I want to make sure I'm right. So it's $348,000 over 12 months, but we're really doing this under 6 months because that's what we're guessing in the transmission and the transition. So should it be $348,000 over 6 months?
No. Bailey would like that very much. But we're going
That would
to-
be what we originally asked for, but
We're going to agree to an annual contract so that if it happens to be
Yeah.
January, we don't have to do another amendment or change to the contract. And so it'll just be paid monthly. And then this contract will terminate when they take over medics and the new contract that we've already agreed to kicks in.
That gives them an incentive to get on the ball, right?
yeah.
So,
And we'll.
Commissioner Lloyd, keep going.
yeah, I'm kind of perplexed here. Maybe I'm just not following as fast as I should. So are you going to be getting what you're asking for in this, in the total amount to make it needed, or are we reducing you in half?
You're reduced, so we would be getting $230 per 911 call instead of our original ask of $460, which is what medics is getting.
Are we going to be reducing medics calls to dollar value?
Nope. And there's a reason we're leaving medics and trying to consolidate.
I guess I'm not understanding. So
Okay. The original ask was for $700,000. The year before this budget year, the ask was $348,000. That was before they had transports. And so now with transports, they have some revenue, not as much as they had originally anticipated. And so we didn't look back at this year's, we scrapped that and looked back before transports to what the dollar amount was, which was $348,000 from the county. So I asked Bailey if they could do that, do the service until the transition for that dollar amount annually. And obviously prorated, whenever the service takes over. So we're moving back 2 years to 348. And they do have some additional revenue from transports, not as much as they had hoped for. Did that help, Roy?
does, it just doesn't make sense because when we go to medics contract, medics also has some income coming in that wasn't presented the last time regarding hospital transfers. And so I think we could take a look at that too. So I guess it just doesn't seem equal out to me. But we can move forward at this point and I will possibly vote no. So.
Okay. Other questions? Then what's your pleasure, commissioners? I didn't think it's going to be this hard, Bailey. I
Well, Mr.
apologize.
Chairman, I will make a motion to sign this Castle Rock interim agreement extension or whatever it's called and authorize the chairman to sign at a cost of $348,000 per year to be paid monthly until they take over the service.
Very good. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I may vote no on this, and I want to make it very clear that I am completely for ambulance services in the community. My vote would not be no because I don't want ambulance. I just think we're not taking this as a realistic equal between both agencies. And so because of that, I may vote no. But once again, public, I love ambulances. We need ambulances. We need to continue moving forward with ambulances. So there we go.
And if we can get a better deal, we should take it.
again, Commissioner Lloyd, there's a reason we are moving away from Sweetwater Medics. And a large reason is the cost. And so if Castle Rock can provide that, the same service for less cost, there we go. So
Call for the question.
vote your conscience.
Call for
Thank
the
you.
question.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
Aye. That's an A, so.
2 nays. So we'll pass 3-2. Thank you, Bailey.
Thank you.
I appreciate your help.
A little more exciting than I thought.
Me too.
Okay, thank you.
It seems straightforward when we were talking at 6:45 this morning.
Yeah,
It
that's
seemed-
true.
Thanks, Bailey.
That was fun. Let's do it again with Sweetwater Medics. And John De Leon will be presenting for us. Mr. Gaddy's not here today.
I'm online.
Oh, there he is. I'm sorry. I didn't see you there, Ron. Ron, go right ahead.
Hello, everyone. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for having me this morning. I was double booked, so please excuse me not being there in attendance. Our request is that we renew the current language for the current amount, basically just redo signatures and dates. Again, paid on a monthly basis, annualized to terminate when the new system takes over.
Thank you. I'm reading the highlighted here, so it'll commence. Oh, this is, oh, okay. We've extended this a while, haven't we? I'm reading the July 1st of 2014.
Yeah.
Okay. Same payment, additional 6 months. Okay. Very good.
Yeah, we're just with the current contract that we have in place right now. We are fine with everything, same amounts to be paid on a monthly basis. And again, working with Castle Rock and Miss Bailey to collaborate and form a new system. And whenever date we decide is the best date to throw the switch on that, that's we will accept termination of the agreement.
And Ron, last chance. Bailey gave back a little bit today. So, here's your last chance if you want to give back a little bit before we agree to this.
I understand the opportunity. Unfortunately, in fact, Bailey knows this very well. I had to give a substantial raise. One of the things that happened in the last 8 months or so is, given all of the political environment and the unsureties that folks have experienced around the ambulance discussion, as well as the overall staffing issue that everybody seems to be having, it was necessary for us to give a fairly substantial raise to folks in an effort to maintain the current staffing levels that we have. And we're hoping that that will, we did have quite an exodus, people seeking other opportunities, and recruiting has all but, at this point, the applications are not coming in. And so we're hoping to maintain and continue service until the day that we can transition. And part of our job to make sure that that happened is we had to give a substantial raise to keep folks in-house that were still there. So that, like I had explained to you earlier, that is why we are asking for the same amount.
And giving raises, but with the same ask from us. So good. Questions for Mr. Gaddy?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Wendling.
Mr. Gaddy, how are you?
Good, sir. How are you?
Good. Hey, so the monthly payments over the next 6 months would be approximately $235,000. Is that correct?
Negative. I think it's 116 something.
How much?
1 moment.
Yeah.
They are 116,000 a month.
Okay, let me look. I was just looked at your contract and the total.
I don't know what contract you have in front of you.
I've got the one that was sent to us as highlighted. Is that correct, John?
Yeah, on page 12,
Yes, 12 of 20. And
the 77 figure there
yes,
plus the 39 below. That's what it-
39,166 for 5 months.
Yep, the 77 was the original amount. The 39 is what was added. You add those two together, and that's what Ron is referring to.
So it'd be a total of what?
Hang on, I think it's 116,784. Let me double check.
$116,798.71.
That's correct.
Will you repeat that, Lauren?
$116,798.71.
Over the next 6 months?
That's per month payment.
Oh, per month
yeah.
payment. Per
Yes.
month payment. All right, that makes more sense.
Other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just a clarification. Hey, Ron, thank you for your work and getting us this information. So this would actually, if this contract would end up going a year because the transition takes more time, that would be for $1.4 million is what I'm gathering, correct?
Correct.
All right.
We anticipate it will be 6 months or less.
Okay.
Other questions? What is your pleasure then with this agreement with Sweetwater Medics? Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Wendling.
I'll make a motion. We approve to approve the agreement between Sweetwater County and Sweetwater Medics for payment for the next 6 months totaling $700,000, $700,792.26, which is $116,798.71 per month, and authorize chairman to sign. Did I do that right?
I heard 800,000 per month, I think. or
No,
something.
no, I said $700,792.26 for the next 6 months. Total will equal be $116,798 per month, or 71 cents per month. I should have been in the other direction around,
All good then.
but anyhow, it's there.
In the contract. Excellent. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner
same
Boyd.
comments as last time. Just that I feel it should be equal. But I do support ambulance.
It's not what I'm hearing.
Well, I believe equal opportunity for ambulance.
Fair enough. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay.
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 3-2 then. Thank you,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Gaddy.
I want to thank you guys for what we're accomplishing. And I know this is kind of a weird way of doing contracts and agreements and everything, but doing this gives us an opportunity to put this on the back burner. And now we can focus all of our attention on developing the new system. We really want to get our employees involved in this, and so that they have some commitment and buy-in, because more than anything, even though it means that as an organization, we probably won't be an organization anymore, that we have a better system at the end of the day. And that's what we really are concerned about. So thank you for your commitment now and in years past. And we hope to continue to be involved in the new structure program.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Moving on, we have a break scheduled at 11:20. So let's take that break and be back at 11:30 for tab S. So we will recess until 11:30, 8 minutes or so. call the meeting of County Commissioners back to order. We are on to tab S, 911 Joint Communication Contract Discussion with Commissioner Lloyd.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Chairman Smith, first of all, I want to thank the commission for the opportunity to work on this board and this committee that was not always as enjoyable as I thought it would be, and working toward some changes in the 911 joint communication contract discussion. One of the important things was that this contract really hadn't been looked at since it actually was originally put up. And I do think it's important that the municipalities continue to look at it on a regular basis every 3 to 5 years, just so it doesn't get lost and out of line. And so the major changes will be presented in the contract. The only language is really being changed in the percentage of share. The percentage of share change will be 37.5% county, 37.5% from the city and 20 of Rock Springs and 25% from the city of Green River. Attorney DeLeon, am I right? Okay. Originally, it was a little bit different. Originally, Rock Springs paid approximately 42. We were at 25, 26, and Green River was at 37. In discussions with that board, when you look at usage, Rock Springs and the county have the most usage between total calls and total frequencies and that total frequencies and lines. That's why it made sense to make a change. Also, in talking to our Sheriff Grossnickel, who sits on that board, one of his philosophies was, if you look at it, if we were to have our own joint telecommunication board and have our own 911 center, it would take us about 19 to 20 employees. It would also take Rock Springs 19 to 20 employees, but Green River can man them on 10. Then plus you have to realize you have to have multiple licenses for equipment, multiple people in multiple IT people instead of one. So there is a large efficiency to total cost by having one center. And that's how the percentages were there. We did look at some language changes and there were discussion, but we couldn't get joint agreement. There is agreement. We are going to continue to look at a couple other possible language changes. But today what I present to the board is the only change presented in the contract would be the change in the percentages of pay in the contract. So that is what I have, and I'll field any questions at this point.
Questions for Commissioner Lloyd? Then what is your pleasure with the amended?
Chairman Smith?
Yes.
I would like to make the motion to approve the joint powers combined communication agreement update specific to the percentages of shared cost at 37.5, 37.5, and 25 as presented, and allow the chairman to sign the document.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Wendling.
Yeah, I think it's great that we got this far on it and that type of thing, but I think the driving factor was also the open checkbook, which caused us greater pain than what the share of the contract would be. So I still think there's been progress made, and I appreciate the work that Commissioner Lloyd did with it, as well as Sheriff Grossnickel representing with us. But I am going to vote no, because I still believe that the open checkbook has to be addressed, and to protect the county, as well as I would hope the cities would see it the same way. But until that gets done, I still see it as a deal with the devil, from the standpoint that joint board has an open checkbook. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wendling. Commissioner Lloyd, would you like to respond to that?
No, I respect that and the opinions of all our board members. And I think that's what makes this a good process is there's always 5 opinions to look at a bigger piece. And my pushback would only be that there was consideration and concern if that was legal within a joint powers to have the open checkbook. So I would just move forward to the question.
Thank you. We have motion second. We've had discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed?
No.
Was that 1 or 2? 2. We passed 3-2 with our joint communication contract.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question though.
Yes.
If we voted 3-2, no, what happens?
Were there? I'm sorry, were there 3 nays? I thought it was.
No, there weren't, but I
Oh.
said, what if there were? Then what happens?
Goes back to the old agreement.
We continue under the agreement we have.
Takes all 3 entities to approve it, Commissioner, and if one entity does not of the 3, then it goes back to the old agreement of the percentages.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. On to tab T, board appointments, and we have many. And I will personally be looking to for varied opinions across all of these. I have talked with some, I have not talked with others. This is maybe not as big a lift as the joint communications. But yeah, there's a lot here. So we will start with the airport board. And I will open any discussions.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I believe we only have one active applicant who is Sean Valentine, President of Western Wyoming Beverage, to replace that shifting seat of Walmsley representing the city and then replacing Pizzato. Anyway, for the county, there's one seat open.
There is
So,
one seat open.
There
but
is
I
one
do.
seat open, and I would recommend that we appoint Sean Valentine.
Thank you. I do see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other applicants on top of, but any other comments or concerns or questions?
And I did talk to the director also.
Excellent.
And I have been liaison and point of contact to the airport board for the last year and a half.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'll make a motion to appoint Sean Valentine to the airport board.
thank you. Do we have a second?
Mr.
Second.
Chairman, I would second it. Okay. Doc, did you get that?
He beat you to it.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Community Fine Arts Board. We have 2 applicants. Discussion on that, commissioners. Got quiet.
Sorry. On the Community Fine Arts Board.
Yes,
Yeah, Commissioner Smith, I just want to pull up my notes.
please do.
As we go to this, I just want to say with so many board appointments, it was very hard to vet and reach out to people
I agree.
and find out what people were interested and still interested. And we've had some issues as a commission in some of the appointments we've made. But I think on that board, it makes most sense to me to reappoint Joseph Hampton, who filled in a position and seems to have been successful on that board.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I agree.
Excellent. I'd entertain a motion then.
I would make a motion to place, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'd like to make a motion to put Joseph Hampton, fill Joseph Hampton in the open position of the Fine Arts Center Board.
thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Thank you. On to the library board.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
just once again, reached out to some of these candidates. I realize, I do think Lenore Perry continues to be an applicant and would be a great person. The one thing I also want to note is it does list Deb Sutton as a candidate, but we actually placed her on the board last meeting. So she is actually on the board now and actually attended the board meeting last night. But I do think Lenore Perry deserves a spot on this board eventually. But Chris Probst, I did reach out to before he went to Europe on a trip, and he would like reappointment. He's been an active member of that board. He's an English teacher at the college, and he's currently the treasurer of that board. And I think it would be good to reappoint Mr. Probst.
Is that a motion or just discussion?
I'd make a motion to appoint Chris Probst in his own expiring term.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those, oh, excuse me, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Thank you. On to the Memorial Hospital of Sweetwater County. We have the expiring term of Mr. William Marty Kelsey, eligible for reappointment, as well as a number of other applicants. What's our discussion here?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Kelsey is obviously very actively engaged, and I would like to make a motion to reappoint him to his current term.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I would second that.
Thank you.
Give it to Mary.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman?
You still want to do it, really, Marty? You really want to do it still? Okay, all right. Commissioner Lloyd.
Yeah, I truly support Mr. Kelsey on being appointed to this board. I think his financial experience has proved very important to the board. But I do want to note in vetting and looking at applications that we have some really good applications down the road, and looking specifically at Stuart Burnham's and Nina James's applications. I do think we have a good group of people down the road if needed, but I do believe Marty Kelsey should be reappointed.
Excellent. Any further discussion? I'll say that having dealt with the board since I've been elected, I'm just amazed. I truly am to have the talents and the abilities that we do on a volunteer board is just amazing. And I appreciate all of them and Irene's leadership as well. So call for the question here is all those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Congratulations. Welcome back. You ran a great campaign there, Marty.
Presence is important.
The Miners Hospital. So the hospital board recommends to us someone to be on that. Currently, that is Mr. Tardoni. Is that correct? Excellent. And there were, from my understanding, no one able to fill this position currently. Is that right? Okay. So then we will leave that vacant and move on. If any of you five change your mind and want more responsibilities or anything.
Mr. Chairman, you might want to read what the clause says, that if Board of Trustee for the hospital chooses not to serve, what may occur, because I don't know if the public knows it or not.
Thank you. Will you read? I just closed that. and
Okay, I'll read it.
Thanks.
If any board member is unwilling, that means a hospital board member from Memorial Hospital, the board, can reach out to hospital employees to represent the Board of Trustees. Correct? Very good. So good luck. Thank you.
I'm sure we'll have somebody. So whenever you have
Yeah,
a
I think so.
recommendation as a board, bring it back to us and we'll be happy to consider it. Museum.
Mr. Chairman.
Now my miners board opened. Sorry. That didn't go right. Okay. Commissioner Lloyd.
Yeah, just as we look at the museum board members, as I vetted those applications out, Deborah Alvarez's application stuck out to me for two reasons. Number one, she used to work at the college in the costume shop, kind of showing that artsy kind of concept, but she also served as the former board member at the Little Snake River Museum. And I think because of that, she would be a good member of that board. That would be my recommendation, and I will make that motion.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. Discussion regarding that nomination. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Thank you. Planning and zoning. Your thoughts here, commissioners.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Toman.
I would recommend reappointing Robert Gerard and Kelly Richards. We had the opportunity to work with them while we were doing that federal plan update, and they got very excited and very involved, and I think they're valuable members of our P and Z.
Excellent. Is that a motion or? a
Yes, I
recommend-
would make that motion.
Do we do them both together? Is that okay? Okay,
Yeah, they're both 3-year
Okay,
terms.
yeah.
perfect. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? I know that Mr. Gerard sits in this seat during planning and zoning, and I know him well, so I would highly recommend him as well. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Thank you. Number 8, our Predatory Animal Board. Commissioners, what are your thoughts?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would like to recommend Mike Davidson to that board. He has expressed interest to me for almost a year now, and being very excited to be a part of it. And he has plenty of time and has a avid sportsman background that I think is important to be represented on that board.
Perfect. Is that a motion or a recommendation discussion?
That's motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I would second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I also know Mr. Davidson, I'm getting old, 30-something years. So, yes, avid outdoorsman and loves our county and our area. So I think it's a great nomination. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I worked with Mr. De Leon. We had to clarify the statutory requirement for this board, and I did reach out and call Randy Lauder because he does own livestock, and that you cannot own livestock. The county appointment has to be someone who has a game and fish, hunting or fishing license. They cannot own livestock. So he was good. He came to visit with Sally, and he was okay with it. I would recommend Angela Wilson from Planning and Zoning shared an interest when we were working on the federal plan, and Wesley Zufeld applied based on recommendation of Dr. Davidson. So I would recommend those two, Angela Wilson and Wesley Zufeld, to fill the other 2 slots.
Recommend or move?
Oh, I'll make a motion.
We have a motion. Sally has a question or comment.
Mary?
Yes.
For Randy Lauder, that would fill an unexpired term through 7/1/23. Which person would you like to fill that unexpired
Oh.
term?
Well, let's put Angela first, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the Wesley Zufelt for the Jim Burnett, and that would be a 3-year term.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion that's clarified. Do we have a second on that clarification motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say, discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay? Thank you. All right, somebody help me out. Which one's next?
Solid waste disposal.
Solid waste, thank you.
Wamsutter.
Thoughts on that appointment?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
in looking at both applications, they both live in Rock Springs. So do they qualify to be part of the solid waste district for Wamsutter and Bear Oil?
I see 4, right? There's
Sally?
the 2 new applications, and then there's the 2 available for reappointment.
Yeah.
You're doing the
Let's-
Green Valley one?
No, Wamsutter.
Wamsutter. Let's, let's do the eligible for reappointment.
Okay.
Seth Rouch and Lowell Clausen. I'll make that motion for Seth Rouch and Lowell Clausen to be reappointed.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Um, I see 3 vacancies though.
Yeah, but Gary Wallner didn't
Yeah.
put in app. So
Just doing
let's,
the reappointments.
let's do the reappointments first.
All right, so these are to reappoint Seth and Lowell. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. We have one more. Mr. De Leon, do you have any recommendation or advice for us on Mr. Beard and Mr. McMullen? Okay,
Let's let it ride for a month or for a couple meetings and
put that on the next.
and we'll do some checking with their bylaws.
Okay, I have that for our future consideration.
Yeah, they've got a quorum now, so they can pay bills.
Right? First things first.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm struggling here. What's next?
Solid Waste of Eden, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Scott Johnson and Ron Kobe, I believe they are both eligible for reappointment. And I would recommend that. Or I would make a motion to reappoint Scott Johnson and Ron Kobe to Eden Valley Solid Waste.
thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. I've almost got my computer restarted and back to where? So what's next?
Southwest Counseling.
Southwest Counseling. Excellent. Your pleasure there on Southwest Counseling. Commissioners, what discussion do we have?
There's no yeah, Kathleen nor Danielle. Danielle didn't submit anything. And Kathleen Neal did not receive an app, so both of them did not apply, so you're gonna have to go with the new applicants.
Mr. Chairman, I'd recommend Corey Rossetti. She has served on, I believe, this board and several similar boards.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this seems fast-paced and frantic, but I would agree that Carrie Rossetti would be a great board member. The other person I would recommend would, based upon her history and vetting the application, would be Raven Beatty.
Yes, I read that one also. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
So
So
I would
2
make a motion
vacancies.
to, did you make a motion, Roy? I'll make a motion to appoint Carrie Rossetti and Raven
Beatty,
Beatty to the Southwest Counseling Board.
thank you. Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Excellent. I'm caught up now. Star Transit.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I will make a motion to reappoint Stephen Shea and Lester Mock for the 2 terms that are opening up.
Thank you. I have a motion. Can I have a second?
I would second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay?
Sally?
There's a third vacancy.
There's
as
one
well.
more app. And Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
there is one more vacancy. There was a third, when you read it, there's the 2 vacancies were due to the expiring terms, and then 1 vacancy was due to the resignation of Alexandria Roberson. And we only had one other applicant on file, and Renee Muniz, and I would recommend that I would make a motion to appoint Renee Muniz to fill the unexpired term through 7/1/24.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Any opposed? Thank you for pointing that out. Fiber optics.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Wendling.
yeah, I'll make a motion. We appoint Commissioner Shanefield to the Fiber Optics Board.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Proudly second that.
Excellent. You okay with that one?
I'm good with that.
Okay, all right.
Too bad. We're voting. Motion.
Move forward.
The question.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Nice work. 13 boards and many appointments. So got all that, Sally? Wow, nice job. Okay,
Thanks,
we will-
Sally, for
I need a
preparing
break
all of
now.
the information.
much appreciated that they were broken up into the,
And
Smaller.
Ashley downstairs, I believe, helped too with some of that.
And
No.
things will start getting easier once we get the new
yeah.
program. So,
Thank you.
Congratulations, Marty.
thank you.
Tab U, leading the way for growth and expansion in Sweetwater County Seminar Series with Kayla McDonald. Hi, Kayla.
Morning, Gail.
Hey, good morning, Commissioners and Chairman Smith. So I'm here today to give you a couple dates to put on your calendars. We had such a good response from our Economic Development Week panel that we did back in May, and we thought, let's just keep moving through. So what we're going to do is a seminar series coming up starting next Thursday. This is a quick turnaround. So we have registrations open. We have Betsy Hale from Cheyenne Leads coming out here to talk Economic Development 101. And then July 21st, you'll have infrastructure development. And this is a conversation with Governor Gordon's policy for Economic Development Director, Rob Krieger. And he will talk about the infrastructure bill. And then August 25th, we have workforce development, and that'll be a conversation with Robin Cooley, who is the Director of Workforce Development for the state. And then September 22nd, we'll talk Wyoming Taxpayers Association and the structure of taxes in the state with Ashley Harpstreet. So I encourage you to sign up for this. There is a $15 fee for this, and breakfast is included. It's from 7:30 in the morning till 9, and we're hosting this at Homewood Suites. So I will send this over to Sally. She can get it on your calendars and make sure you register. We are encouraging the public, everybody from who's running for office, who's currently in office. We think this is a great way to educate our elected officials, our community members, and just anybody who's interested in learning about economic development and the state. So I encourage you all to join.
I don't know who's not, so it should be packed.
I hope so. I'm really hoping so. So,
You're not? No, no more. Okay. Well, there's the one.
well,
Seems to be all we hear about sometimes.
yeah, I hope so.
And so the $50 for the whole series or per?
$15
Oh,
per.
$15. I'm sorry.
$15. Yep.
Okay.
And if you want to pay in advance, let us know. We can do that. Save you the trouble of having to remember. But the links all already on our Facebook, and it'll be on our website today. So
Great. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Any questions for Kayla?
great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I enjoyed the session at the spa. That was pretty good with the, 15, 20 young business women.
And the wine.
And the little relaxation yoga session after we learned how to make more money with our small business. It was very good.
That's all good. Tab V, Sweetwater County Community Assessment Presentation with Christina Marshall.
Okay, last but not least, right, after this very productive day.
We got work after that still. Just watch us.
It's not about me. So just to give you a quick summary, the county receives community services block grant funding, in which an important compliance element is the planning process to identify the conditions and causes of poverty in Sweetwater County. It's pretty exciting to see this commission because one of our members, Roy Lloyd, is a current sitting voting member in the tripartite board. A former member, Doc Wendling used to be on the board. And then we have Lauren Shanefield, who was an agency receiving funding. And also in the audience, Kim Lionberger is also on the tripartite board. I want to be clear, this needs assessment was completely funded by grant funding. In the last 2 fiscal years, we've procured $683,000 in CSBG funding. In fiscal year 21 alone, 544 individuals were served with different services and that represented 276 families. So, but without further ado, I'd like to introduce Tiffany Comer-Cook from Align Consultant, who put out a bid and was awarded the bid to do this assessment. She has a PowerPoint presentation, which I emailed to you last night as well. So here's Tiffany.
Thank you. Welcome, Tiffany.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here. I'm going to pull this up very quickly.
Thanks for your time.
Okay. So as Christina said, I'm with the Align team. We are a nonprofit group based in Cheyenne. I actually live in Laramie, and we were honored to do this needs assessment. Christina already kind of covered this, so I won't spend a lot of time on it, but why do we do a needs assessment? So it's required every 3 years by the feds. And it's a systematic process for finding the needs and resources within a community. It helps to determine funding priorities, and the results go beyond the CSBG. You know, we really cover the whole gamut of all the needs related to low income and those in poverty in the county. And one note about this presentation as well is it can be a little overwhelming because there are a lot of, when it comes to poverty, it's a very complex issue and there's a lot of concerns related to it. So don't feel overwhelmed as I go through this presentation. So the methods, primarily we looked at publicly available existing data, and those are using things like the US Census, the Wyoming Department of Education, the Wyoming Department of Revenue, Department of Family Services. Pretty much if any county level data was available, we found it and looked at all of the different data pieces. And in the final report that you'll have access to, it goes through all the data pieces that we used. I also conducted focus groups with service providers. So these are stakeholders who work with the low income population directly. And that was done in April. I did one here in Green River and then one in Rock Springs. And then I did follow-up interviews with providers. So if there were certain groups that weren't represented in the focus groups, I made sure to try to invite them to do a one-on-one interview. Those were done by video chat. And then I also tried to get different representation across the county. So for instance, I talked to the interim mayor of Granger as part of that process. So we did those one-on-one interviews. And then finally, we did a survey of low-income individuals. So this was an online survey and a paper pencil survey. It was very short. It was just 2 questions primarily. And I provided that to the service agencies, different service agencies, and then they provided it to the people they serve. So we got, I believe it was 124 surveys back of those who are low income. They're traditionally a difficult population to reach. So that's a difficult part of these needs assessments. Okay, so what are some of the positives that we found through this process? People in the focus groups talked about how the services are really well connected. There's an interagency coordinating council who meet regularly and talk about different needs and how they can share their resources. Poverty levels in the county are actually below the state average and below the United States average as well. So that's great. The extraction industries really provide a lot of good paying jobs. They don't require a college degree, which also relates to the next one, which is median household income is greater than the Wyoming state average and the US. Home prices are lower here in the county than the state. I'm convinced that's Teton County that's pulling up that average, but we'll still claim it. Sweetwater County also has good ratings on the list there. Access to exercise opportunities. I think that's a lot of the outdoor recreation that you all have here and you can enjoy. Good ratings on alcohol impaired driving deaths. A good number of primary care physicians and dentists, especially for a relatively rural area. Good ratings on the number who are uninsured preventable hospital stays, violent crime, air pollution. That's why we live here, right? So the top needs, now to get to kind of the nitty gritty, this is the high level needs, and I'll go through each of these in a little more detail. But this is the primary themes I found in the needs assessment. The first one may not be surprising to you because inflation is affecting the entire country, maybe even worldwide. But right now, the cost of living and inflation is a major concern. It disproportionately affects those who are low income. When they have to pay more for gas and groceries and clothing and those kinds of things, their paychecks get stretched thinner and thinner, and they start to have to make decisions between whether they pay rent or get medication. Employment and wages is another need. I'll go into more detail about that. Housing, which I think is across the state, housing has been a concern. There's a shortage of low-income and affordable housing, healthcare, and transportation.
Tiffany, can I ask when, maybe I missed it, what is the time frame of this survey?
Good question. So I started collecting data primarily in mid-April.
Oh.
And then, so that was the data I collected personally. The existing data out there, we mostly used 2020 census. Anything that was most recent is what we used. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about inflation, cost of goods and services. So statewide, the inflation rate for the fourth quarter of last year, 2021, was 9.3%. And of course, the first quarter of 2022 will probably be coming out soon, and that might be even higher. And for reference, a healthy inflation rate is 2%. So it's kind of astronomical. The last time the statewide inflation rate was this high was the third quarter of 1981. The Southwest region is kind of on par with the state at 9.2%, right there even. Another issue with cost of goods and services is that medical costs, transportation and medical costs more in Sweetwater County than statewide averages. That's from the cost of living index. Cost of gas has skyrocketed. I think we've known that and understand that. Medical costs came up as the #1 need in the survey from low-income individuals. They said the majority reported that they put off medical appointments or dental visits because they couldn't afford them. And 41% of food insecure individuals do not actually qualify for federal programs. Now, that means they might be able to get help from other services such as the food pantry or food bank, but they don't qualify for federal programs. So there are people who are food insecure that don't qualify. Each slide will kind of talk a little bit about the needs, and then the next part will be, well, what can we do about it? And again, this is very overwhelming, very complex problem. So this group may not be able to solve poverty in one day, but there's a few little things we can maybe do to adjust some expectations. So this first one is expect more people to need help addressing fundamental needs like food and shelter. Like I said, if you're paying more for gas and groceries, then it just stretches those dollars even thinner. And then increase the capacity of human service agencies in the county. So the agencies themselves are stretched pretty thin, serving the needs. And as inflation continues to increase, that might be even more of a demand on them. Employment and low wages. So like I said at the beginning, the energy industry is an awesome, excellent opportunity for many, but that's not available to everyone. So if you don't have a good high paying job without a college degree, it's very difficult to make a livable wage. In the report, I have different graphs that talk about the top 5 industries in the county, and food and accommodation services is one of those industries. And the wages are just, a quarter of what the energy industry provides. The focus groups and interviews talked about the working poor and how sometimes we have a stereotype that people are sitting at home enjoying government benefits, but really it's the people they serve are those who are working and they just can't make ends meet. Job and payroll growth have stalled, and it's actually lower here in Sweetwater County than it is in the state. And there's many other barriers to employment, and I list them there. So transportation, daycare concerns, that's cost and availability, mental illness, addiction, criminal history, poor health, including disabilities, and even just navigating the system. If you have a low literacy rate, filling out an application and performing well in the interview can be major hurdles to obtaining a good paying job. So what can we do about those things? So addressing those barriers I just mentioned is one thing we could do. Job skills and vocational training, investing in those and helping people build those skills. And of course, pay higher wages. We could get employers to do that, would be really great. Housing is another concern. So housing costs are increasing. Again, we have the hard data to show that in the past year, the housing costs have increased. 16% of homeowners and 36% of renters in the county are housing cost burdened. So that means they spend more than 30% of their income on housing. So that's 1 in 3, over 1 in 3 renters are spending more than 30% of their income on their rent.
How does that compare, like statewide or region wide, or do you know?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know off the top of my
Excluding
head.
Teton.
Yeah, we'd have to exclude Teton for a lot of that. I don't know that off the top of my head. I'd have to look that up. And then there's a shortage of low income and affordable housing in the county. What can we do? Again, increasing the capacity of agencies offering housing support services. So there's a lot in the county. There's the Rock Springs Housing Authority and those types of agencies. So increasing their capacity to offer more would be great. And increasing the number of low-income housing options. Again, a complex issue. You're not going to build apartments overnight. So that's a tricky one. Healthcare costs are high. Jumping down to that last bullet, like I said, in the survey, we found that people are putting off medical and dental visits because they cannot afford them. Long travel times, again, we live in Wyoming, we know that. But you all here have to go all the way to Cheyenne, which is more than 3 hours away, or all the way to Salt Lake City if you need any kind of specialty care. And so if you don't have transportation for that, that can be very challenging. Health outcomes. So this is from the Robert Wood Johnson County Health Rankings. Sweetwater County ranks bottom half of the state in many health outcomes. So that is a concern. And then there's not enough mental health and substance abuse services available to people. And what is available has long wait lists. So what can we do about that? Reduce healthcare costs, easy peasy. And yeah, done. And then improve access to medical care, especially mental health and substance abuse treatment. Okay, and last primary need is transportation. So as you know, this is a rural county. There's many towns in the county that literally have no services, zero, not a gas station, not a grocery store, not a pharmacy, no doctors in town. So they have to drive. They have to drive at least 30, 35 miles to get to a place that has those services. So if you can drive, that's great. But if you are in a small town and don't have access to transportation, that can be a concern. One positive is that, people said, well, people really rely on their neighbors. Someone's going to town, they say, can you pick up a few things, and they'll help their neighbors out, which is great. The Star Transit system definitely is an awesome resource here in the county, but it is very limited. So it only runs until, early in the evening, only Monday through Friday. So if you need to get around on holiday or on a weekend, then you're kind of stuck. And then also transportation is linked to employment. So if you can't get to your job, it's hard to hold a job, and medical care, like I said. So this one's a little more straightforward. What's a possibility here is expanding the STAR operating hours and services might help with the transportation concern. And then I have this other, I called it a sub-level need. So I didn't feel like it rose to the need of the others, but this did come up and people spent quite a bit of time talking about it. But the 4-day school week that Sweetwater County School District number 1 has recently implemented was a big concern for stakeholders. It affects food security. So if there's no school on Fridays and if kids are relying on school lunch, school breakfast, that food security for Fridays goes away. Daycare concerns. So finding daycare for 1 day a week plus after school is challenging and it costs a lot. Longer days with a loss of instructional hours. So I think many of the schools are going until 4 or so, but you're still losing the number of hours in school. And people really felt it was a deterrent for people moving here, that it was not something that the public really wants. Don't know how much control you have over that, but I did want to mention that because it did come up. Yeah, that's what I thought. It did come up in the conversations. So just to kind of go over these top level needs. So we have the cost of living and inflation, employment and low wages, housing, healthcare, and transportation came up as the top needs in the county. Are there any questions?
Questions for Tiffany? Comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Shanefield.
Thank you. Other than the presentation, do you have an actual report that we can get a copy of, please?
Yes, absolutely. So it's not quite done. It's very close to being done. It is due at the end of the month. So by then you'll have a nice published final report.
Thank you. I think that would be important to share with those like our school district board and, you know, those that can affect change in those different areas.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
Commissioner Wendling.
Yeah. Has there been an opportunity, Christina, for the, and more for Christina, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Ms. Cook, but Christina, has there been or will there be an opportunity for your board to take a look at what's come out of this and its findings and recommendations and compare it to the needs assessment from 3 years ago to see what's changed or what's gotten better or
Sure.
what's needed?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Wendling, it is going to be on the agenda in August. So for the board members who are streaming this and in person, that will be discussed. And to address Commissioner Shanefield's comment. So this report, like clearly the county gets maybe a couple $100,000 a year, but the whole idea is that this is shared with the government entities, the school districts. And so the current one from 3 years ago is actually on the county's website under boards and under tripartite board. So, and I know a lot of agencies use it to go after grant funding as well.
Very good. Thank you.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of comments. I think number one, I think the housing comments are just right on because I know as a tripartite board, the amount of money that we've put into rental assistance, but then also hearing the numbers, and I don't have exact numbers in my memory, but isn't it almost over $1 million, Christina, that the Family Resource Center through their different entities have provided to people in rental assistance in the last year to two? The number is astronomical when you look at it. And then as we were speaking, I did find a website that kind of gave an overview of every county in Wyoming of how much the median housing is compared. And I sent a link to everyone in the room so they'd be able to take a look at it. Ms. Presenter, I didn't have your email, so I asked Christina to send it to you. But that is some good data in there too. But I really think that housing crisis is a huge thing, and we're continuing to see it. And that's based, and you can see that solely based upon the number of dollars that have gone into that from Sweetwater Resource Center alone.
Thank you. And I see in that we are number 23 out of 23 counties. So at least on that website. Other comments? Mr. Shanefield?
I know this is a part of the requirements for CSBG, but this assessment, community needs assessment, is huge to all of the service agencies in the community. And I just wanted to thank you and you, Christina, for the process and really digging into our community and ensuring that this is robust and has a lot of information in it, because it really is important to bringing in funding where it's needed and to helping those service agencies. I know when I did my strategic planning at the YWCA to really look at where the mission of the YWCA aligned with the community needs assessment so that we could ensure that we were meeting the needs of our community. And I know that a number of other agencies do that as well. It's really important. So thank you.
You're welcome.
It is much appreciated. And it's the only way we know how to fix problems is to know the problem first. So I'm glad you started with the things that are going well. As short as the list may have been. Other comments or questions? Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Christina. We appreciate that and the work you're doing. Our next agenda item is executive session where nope. Okay. I thought I heard something. I was like, oh. I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Can we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Well, do we need a break?
Yeah, let's take a short one.
Okay, about 12:30 then. 12:30, 7, 8 minutes.